That thing is loud today.
Lord. Good morning.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Right. Good morning, everybody. We will call to order the June 22nd, 2026 City of Detroit Board of Zoning Appeals. You can get a roll call, Director Ribron.
Board Member Sherman. Board Member Osborne will not be here today. Board Member Watson.
Here.
Board Member Campbell.
Here.
Board Member Carr. Board Member Johnson.
Here.
Board Member Bowman. Board Member Parker.
Present.
Chairperson Roberts.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Okay. Any procedural matters?
Yes. The first one is you received a letter from me via email, and you received it today regarding BZA attendance. Please review that memo and take all necessary action. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I'll wait until we have more board members to address it.
Okay.
I get a motion to approve.
One more procedural matter. The BZA recording from June 15th is posted on YouTube. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I get a motion to approve the minutes dated June 15th, 2026.
So moved.
I missed who.
Let me make it.
I missed who moved it.
Let me make it. I
Okay.
make a motion to approve the minutes with the corrections suggested.
Okay.
There were corrections.
So a motion to approve the minutes with corrections, which have been relayed to Inspector Pureforth.
Second.
Can I get a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Any communications, Director Ebron?
No communications.
Any miscellaneous business?
No miscellaneous business.
Okay, we will adjourn to till 9:15 when our first case.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we will call back to order the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting, and the chair recognizes Member Sherman and Member Bowman. And just as a reminder to the board, Director Ibran sent us an email with a memo about attendance, and also provided it to us hard copy today. And I just want to echo the director's sentiment about attendance. It seems as though, since we're doing 4 cases, that we're usually here till about 1:30. Seems to be the norm. And so it's obviously important that everybody's here on time and is able to stay throughout, throughout the afternoon and throughout the hearings. Last week in particular, we had an absenteeism, and a couple members left early, which left us down to 5 people. So that obviously is quorum, but if anybody else would have had to leave, we would have not been able to render decisions today, and that obviously would be, I think,
Mr. Chair.
inappropriate, to bring people down and hear their case and then not be able to render a decision that day. Member Watson.
As an offender, I would like to apologize to the board. It shall not happen again.
No problem. Okay, we will get started. Is our first case in, Director?
Yes, it is, and the petitioner is here, BZA case 2026-00030. BZA petitioner is Timothy Flintoff. The owner is Anton Heath. The location is 297, 307, 315, 323, and 329 King between John R. and Brush in an R2 two-family residential district. Timothy Flintoff requests dimensional variances for a proposed construction of 4 multi-family dwellings with a total of 24 dwelling units at 24,224 gross square feet combined, approved with conditions in BC Pen 01007 2795 01002796 01002797 01002798 and 01002799. Site plan review only. King Street Townhouses, SPR 2025-00028, second review. The subject site is within a R2 two-family residential district. We will now hear from Inspector Purefoy.
Thank you, Director. Good morning, board member.
Morning.
We are hearing this case today because the board shall be authorized to hear dimensional variance requests for matters that are beyond the scope of the building department's 10% administrative adjustments for a variance of the minimum setbacks. I'll read the variance requested at the end of the report. BC completed the review of the site plans on April 6, 2026. The above referenced property is located in the R2 district. The proposal is to construct 4 multifamily dwellings with a total of 24 dwelling units at 24,224 gross square feet combined, and it was site plan review. The proposed multifamily dwellings will consist of 4 efficiency units, 12 one-bedroom units, 8 three-bedroom units. As the efficiency units will comprise less than 50% of the proposed dwelling units, the use is permitted by right in an R3 district, not R2 district. Thus, special land use is not required. The development site features a 213-foot frontage along King Street. It consists of 2 8-unit multifamily dwellings fronting King Street, designated as Building A and B, with A to the west and B to the east, and 2 4-unit multifamily dwellings adjacent to the rear alley, designated as Building C and D. The variances requested from the board are under Section 5013-253-2D. The required front, side, or rear setback of one building may not serve as the required front, side, or rear setback of a second building. Section 5013-4, deficient side setback for Building C and D. 4 feet 3 inches are required, 3 feet are provided, 1 foot 3 inches are deficient. Section 5013-4, deficient rear yard setback for Building C and D. 30 feet are required, 2 feet are provided, 28 feet deficient. Section 5013-253-2A, deficient horizontal distance between buildings. 45 feet are required, 30 feet 5 inches provided, 14 feet 7 inches deficient. Section 5013-253-2B, deficient horizontal distance between buildings C and D. 20 feet required, 15 feet 1 inch provided, 4 feet 11 inches deficient. Section 5013-4, excessive floor area ratio. Section 5014-34, deficient off-street parking. 18 spaces are required. They provide 16, 2 spaces deficient. Section 5014-112, deficient off-street loading, 112 by 35 space required, none provided, deficient 112 by 35 foot space. Subject site is again located on King Street. It is all vacant land. This is a view looking down the frontage of the subject property on King Street, looking to the west. Again, front view looking down King Street. The view looking down Rush Street, looking to the north. Block opposite on King Street, residential properties. The corner of King and Brush, residential properties. The view again of the corner of King and Brush, subject sites to the left on the screen, opposite is residential properties. Along, this is the far east corner at Brush and King. Long view looking down the frontage of the property off of King. This is the far west side of the property on King. View looking down King again, there are residential properties looking to the west. The view looking down the frontage of the property, looking back to the east towards Brush Street. Again, looking down King Street. This is block opposite on King. Also block opposite looking down King Street. This is Brush Street. The subject property is looking to the west. View down the alley behind the subject property. Again, 2 buildings will be off the alley and 2 buildings will be off of King Street. These are residential properties on the opposite side of that alley, looking to the north. Residential apartment building at the corner, looking down King Street, looking to the north. And a view again of the subject property from the alley view, looking up towards King Street. And a long view of the subject property, looking down King. And that should complete the visuals, Mr. Chair.
Okay, one question, Inspector, can you do the parking deficiency again? I missed the numbers, I'm sorry.
Parking deficiency?
Yeah.
They required 18, they provide 16, they're deficient 2.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Okay, Mr. Flintoff. Is anybody else going to be speaking today?
Mark Owen. Mark Owen. That's the
Right.
size of my phone.
Name is Mr. Heath, if you want to call his name.
Mr. Heath, can you raise your hand? Okay, he's not on yet.
He's not on?
Is Detroit resident here? Okay.
Okay. Well,
Push
we'll
the mic.
move forward, and if Mr. Eaton joins us, then we'll have him sworn in. To start off, we need to swear you both in. So Inspector Pierford will do
Will you
that.
raise your right hand, please? Do you affirm your testimony before the board today is true?
Yes.
Thank you.
I do.
Okay, and the next thing we need to do is establish standing, and that will be done by Attorney Savage.
Okay, good morning. Erica Savage on behalf of the Law Department. These questions are designed to assess your standing. Pursuant to Section 50-3-3 of the City of Detroit zoning ordinance, any party who petitions the Board of Zoning Appeals must possess sufficient standing, which means you either possess a legal interest in the property or you're authorized by the property owner to appear on their behalf. Based on the Law Department search of the public records, for the properties 297, 307, 315, 323, and 329 King, we obtained a quitclaim deed that was recorded on December 22nd, 2015 at Liber 52768, page 287. And that's the same for all of them. And it reflects the owner of the property as Detroit Land Bank. I know that you all submitted your option agreement along with your application with the land bank, which that agreement is with Lambert Sanctuaries doing business as Greater Woodward Community Development Corporation. Man, I just had a question, Mr. Flintoff. I got the email from Mr. Heath this weekend.
Yeah.
And I still don't understand how it's executed. Can you tell me? He said, is he not here, you said?
He's not on the
Okay.
line, so unfortunately.
Okay, he said it was e-signed, and I'm still trying to understand, because I see one electronic signature, but all the spots for the Detroit Land Bank on the emails are still all blank. So did the parties e-sign it? Are you aware?
I wasn't party to that, so
Okay.
I'm not sure.
But you plan for him to attend today?
He was supposed to attend last I talked to him, yeah.
Okay, what I can do, I mean, Mr. Chair, I'm satisfied with the agreement and the option that it does expressly authorize Lambert Sanctuaries. I just need to establish Mr. Heath's relationship with Lambert Sanctuaries, and I need to have a better understanding of the execution of the document. He said it was e-signed, but I don't see the document including e-signatures with, so let's just have a contingency. Um, I'll, I will, I'm sorry, a condition. I will continue to email with him if he doesn't appear today to get the full documentation and understanding.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, Mr. Flintoff, what brings you in today?
It says, it was presented, we're here today to request, variances for a new 24-unit development in the north end. I believe Josh sent a presentation. And Josh will kind of walk through the project a little bit further.
Josh, if you could unmute yourself and run us through your presentation, that'd be great.
Yeah, I apologize. I accidentally muted myself there for a second. All right, good morning. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present this project today. The project is at the north end of the North End neighborhood near Holbrook and Brush. It is a 24-unit apartment project split between 4 buildings. The buildings are configured as 2 relatively traditional townhouse buildings fronting King Street. Those consist each of 8 units. There are 4 traditional 2-story brownstone units that occupy the first and second floors, and then there is a series of 4 garden level apartments. So all of the units have stairs to their front doors off of the front of the building. They all also have rear stairs that access private outdoor spaces in the back. At the rear of the property, which is the kind of the source for most of the variances today, we have 2 carriage house buildings or muse buildings, as they're also sometimes called, which consist of our covered garage parking spaces on the ground level and then apartments above. So if you were to shift forward to the floor plans, we can kind of see how those buildings lay out. And again, kind of explain the what's going on with the deficiencies we're talking about today. So this is the garden level plan. You can see these are studio apartments in the basement, in the garden level, kind of the lower levels. The building is raised up to give sufficient window coverage and daylight to these units. If you go to the next slide, you can see these are the kind of the traditional 2-story units above, and we can kind of walk through these plans pretty quickly and go on to the, I believe the next set is, this is the upper level with the bedrooms. They're 3-bedroom units. And then going on. So these are the floor plans for the carriage house building. So you can see the lower level is the parking and utility space for the units above with stairs that access the units. And then up above we have 4 1-bedroom units per building. So there are 2 of these buildings at the rear of the site. So what you're seeing is we're able to provide 8 parking spaces interior for each of these buildings, and then each building contains the 4 1-bedroom units for the total of the 8 1-bedroom units. So similar to, I believe we were here last month or a couple months ago for a project that had residential buildings at the rear of the site. And because they are subject to the same setback requirements as a primary residential structure, these carriage house buildings have excess front yard setback because they're pushed all the way to the back. They have deficient rear yard setback because they are, again, at the rear of the property. And again, the proximity of the buildings to each other is also deficient based on the zoning requirements. So essentially, because instead of building just garages for only car parking in the rear, because we're adding the units above, it turns them into primary residential structures, which then makes them subject to all of these setback regulations. And that the developer had with this project was to maximize the unit count and to provide that range of unit sizes and styles. And creating these units over top of the garages was a big opportunity to do that. And these are buildings that you see the Brush Park is filled with these types of buildings as new construction, and there's a historic precedent for carriage houses, albeit maybe at a smaller scale, homes throughout the city. But this is a building type that does exist, is very helpful for getting these types of units into developments, and is simply just not at the moment, not really captured in the zoning code, although we understand that that's being worked on for the future. So again, most of the variances are related to these two buildings at the rear of the lot because of their nature of being at the rear of the lot. So now we continue forward through the presentation. We'll see some kind of sketch renderings. The style, it's a very traditional sort of two-story row house style that we see throughout the city, with the articulated bay windows next to the very traditional stoop style entries. The buildings are primarily brick with panelized detailing around the bay windows and a intricate cornice at the top. So you can just sort of walk through these exterior images. We'll get a sense of what they look like. This is at the corner of Brush and King. And then I believe the next view is of the side of the, this is the kind of a detailed view of those front stoop entries. And then that is the side, the street facing side of the sort of carriage house muse building at the rear. And that's an alley view showing the garage doors and the units above.
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Heath is on. I can allow him to talk. Attorney Savage, Mr. Heath is on. You had questions for him? Okay.
Mr. Heath? Mr. Heath, if you could please unmute yourself.
Good morning.
Good morning. Inspector Purifoy needs to swear you in, please.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you affirm your testimony before the board today is the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. And Attorney Savage has some questions for you in terms of the ownership and whatnot of the property.
Good morning, Mr. Heath.
Good morning.
Erica Savage with the Law Department. Actually, Mr. Chair, after I spoke, I did find that Mr. Heath sent me a second email yesterday, and that second email is the executed option, but I still need to question you regarding your relationship with Lambert Sanctuaries. What is your relationship to that organization?
My relationship to Lambert Sanctuaries is their developer and also their real estate guy. So I've been with them for a few years, helping them with their real estate that they have in-house.
Okay, and is there someone who's the managing a CEO, president, or managing partner, someone that you work with?
Yes. There are a few people that I work with within house. They are on the board of Lambert Sanctuaries.
Okay.
Yes.
So if none of them are present today,
I don't believe so.
okay, so are you able to send me another email with a letter from Lambert Sanctuaries authorizing you as the development person to act on their behalf? I just will need a letter.
Okay. Yeah, I could definitely do that. I believe we sent over I could do it. I could do that. Yes.
The email you sent me yesterday, it has a letter of support.
Yeah,
But
those are the letters of support, but there is another letter at the end of the option agreement, I believe, with everything outlined, with the board members and everything.
okay, well, I will see if I see that, but we'll continue on with the hearing. And then you and I can sort it out after. We already placed the condition on the record that just to make sure I was satisfied. I did see your emails, but um if I have it by the end of the hearing, I'll place it on the record.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Anton, would you like to say anything about the project after Josh's presentation? It might be good to have you talk just a little bit about your vision.
That was meant for you, Mr. Heath. Mr. Flintoff, can you ask him
Yes.
again?
Yeah, it was muted, so they just unmuted me.
Okay.
Yeah. So our vision was with Lambert Sanctuaries in Greater Woodward was to create housing, workforce housing for the community that looked like the community. We didn't want to skimp on a lot of the projects that we see now. It doesn't look like Detroit, but we have a flair with this project that is Detroit, along with a little bit of classic brownstone views. So Greater Woodward has been around for many years in Lambert Sanctuaries, and they had this project. And I came in looking at the project, very excited about it, and wanting to help them out. So, this is what we came up with. We're still tweaking a lot of the details on it, but this is where we are. We are workforce housing, close to Woodward. It's a lot of people moving into the community that, and a lot of the people who are on the board live in the community. So this is what we came up with.
Okay.
Thank
I
you.
think it looks great. Can somebody explain the relationship between the land bank and this project? And also if there's any affordability?
The land bank is actually the owners of the land. Lambert Sanctuaries and Greater Woodward own one of the lots, one of the 4 lots. So that's our relationship right now. We have an option on the 4 lots, and we own one of the lots at the end of the block.
Okay. And these will all be market rate rents?
Yes.
Any other questions from the board for the petitioner? Member Sherman?
Good morning, Board Member Sherman. Can you guys explain the meaning of efficient units? I have a couple questions. Explain the meaning of efficient units. What are the costs and square footage of each floor plan? And what's the timeline of starting and completion?
So the efficient units are the studio units.
Okay.
Those are the center of the lower level units. They're the studios. I believe the square footages were on the plans. I don't have them in front of me. Josh can probably speak to the range of square footages. But there's a mix of 3 bedrooms, 1 bedrooms in the garden levels, studios in the garden levels, and then 1 bedrooms in the carriage houses. I'll let Josh talk to the square footage.
Sure. So the studio apartments in the basement of the 2 front buildings are around 800 square feet. The 3-bedroom, 2-story units above are in the range up approaching 1,500 square feet, and then the 1-bedroom units are about 5 to I believe 575 square feet.
And then I believe, Anton, if you can talk to your intended schedule.
So currently we are projecting for early 2027. So we're putting everything together. But our projected time, we would love to do it earlier, but 2027 is going to be where we're at.
Okay, and lastly, what is the price range for these different units?
All right, the price range that we have starting off is about 1245, and they'll go up to about 2627.
Per square foot?
No. Or for the rental, for the rental that's for the 3 bedrooms, the 1 bedrooms, in the studio. So we're starting off at about 12 for 1245 for the smaller units.
Oh, so these are rentals and not for a purchase.
Yes.
Yeah,
So 1,200 to 2,700 is what you said.
correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Okay, seeing none, if you want to go ahead and step back, we're going to hear from our departments and from the public. If you want to pay attention to what's being said, if there's any issues, you'll have an opportunity to come back up and address those. BC. Inspector Pierce.
Good morning to the board. This is Inspector Connor Pierce here with the Building Safety Engineering Environmental Department. Not too much to say on this. Inspector Purefoy covered most of it. As she stated earlier, this is in the R3 low density residential zoning district. The use is permitted by right as they are less than 50% studio units. Looking at the required variances, you can sort of group these together in terms of the density of the lot being for the first variance that's requested, as well as the horizontal distance and the excessive FAR. The deficient side and rear setbacks for those rear units near the alley, the deficient parking, and then the deficient off-street loading space. For that deficient off-street loading, normally we would be able to waive that requirement for the alley being there for commercial uses, but that provision is not given to us in the ordinance for residential uses. So they have put on their plans a loading space in the alley, but we can't consider that due to the way the ordinance is written. But that's all I have for BC, if you guys have any questions.
What's that loading space used for?
For move in, move out, mostly for the residents that are coming in.
And unless I'm missing, I don't see a dumpster enclosure on the site.
Yeah, I believe there is one between the two rear buildings in the alley.
Okay, that's a dark space all the way to the north, it looks like. Okay. All right, any questions for Inspector Pierce? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
This is a by right use, so I don't think that there's anything from PD&D. Okay. So we'll move on. Any communications, Director Brown?
You want to do the approval criteria first?
Oh, I'm sorry. Kinda.
Will you need Mr. Anton again?
No, Josh and I will.
Okay.
Okay. All right, we'll move on to our approval criteria and we'll start with Board Member Sherman. If you could please do 1 and 2.
Good morning, Board Member Sherman. For the requested variances you are seeking today, do you believe that they are consistent with the master plan of the city of Detroit? And if so, can you explain why?
Yeah, as we kind of stated in our presentation, we think they are consistent with the master plan. The density is appropriate. The type of use of the building is appropriate. There's examples of row houses and brownstones throughout the city, as well as carriage houses throughout the city. So we think it is consistent with the master plan.
What are the practical difficulties that prevent you from carrying out the strict letter of this chapter?
The size of the site, and just the zoning ordinance with its restrictions related to carriage houses and in the separation distance requirements. and the overlapping of front yards creates the difficulties in creating something that we think is an appropriate typology.
Thank you.
Okay, hello, if we grant the variance, what will you do? I'm sorry, let me start that over. If we grant the variance, what will it do for your business and the site where it is being built?
We believe it's a valuable asset to add 24 new residential spaces, units, to the neighborhood. These are going to be for families to move in and occupy vacant land, and build up the more stronger community.
Thank you. And next question is, explain how your business will not cause any adverse impact on the other businesses, or in this case, I guess residences also around you.
We are not going to be operating any businesses from the residences. It'll just be residential dwelling units. It's going to bring 24 new families to the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you.
5 and 6, Member Watson.
Please explain how any adverse impacts resulting from the variance we grant, if we grant, would be mitigated by your firm.
Josh, I'll let you handle the next couple.
Sure. So in terms of adverse impacts caused by the variances, we don't think there would be any because, again, as Tim stated, this is a residential only project. It's a multifamily project that just happens to be split between 4 smaller buildings instead of 1 larger apartment building. We think that if there are any impacts, perhaps related to parking, the operators of the building, because this is rental, it will be held and operated by the developer. There will be a one point of contact to interface with the community and solve any of those issues. We think that there are parking opportunities both on the street and at other nearby locations to help mitigate that. And really, it'll be a communication between nearby residents and the developer slash management of the building to deal with those. If there's any adverse impacts of the construction of the project, again, because this is a developer who is, of the community and intends to hold the building as rentals long term, then that point of contact will also be how anybody can voice any concerns or communicate and deal with any adverse impacts that happen during construction.
Okay, the next question. Explain again how or why the requested variance is necessary to compensate for some unusual aspect of you find at your site, sir.
Sure. So the multifamily, I'll call it apartment nature of the project is by right in this zoning. The unique considerations happen when we take what could be a large apartment building and split it between 4 smaller buildings that are building types that fit more adequately into the neighborhood. So granting these variances, allow us to kind of take that approach and create buildings that are of a scale and a building type that fit in the neighborhood versus doing something that would be a larger apartment building that sort of lands on the site. So it's not unusual in the fact that the site is unusual. It's, I guess, our approach of trying to build a project that is more amenable and more of the character and fabric of the neighborhood is what creates the unique situation for this one.
Excuse me, Member Parker, 7 and 8, please.
Good morning. Would you please explain how the special circumstances and conditions that account for the need for variance or administrative adjustment is not the result of your own actions?
So I guess kind of going back to the last the last question too. So there's sort of uh, the use of the building, and there's also the character of the building. And while in an R3 zone, we're able to create an apartment building, it just really wouldn't be appropriate to land in a multi-story single apartment building on this parcel on King Street. On Holbrook, there are examples. There's the Cortez building is a large apartment building that's sort of right at the end of Brush. But immediately, once you come off Holbrook and onto King, it becomes a more low scale residential style neighborhood. So while you could argue that it is our action that, you know, splitting the building into multiple buildings is what sort of caused this, we as architects believe that this was the right approach to create a series of row houses, to create a series of carriage houses instead of another large apartment building on the site. So again, it goes back to the approach of wanting to create a project that fits more seamlessly into the neighborhood versus just following the letter of the zoning ordinance and doing the largest building we're allowed to do on the site.
Thank you. Lastly, can you explain how the variance or administrative adjustment will not permit the establishment within a zoning district?
Sure. So again, this is an all residential project. So we're not setting a precedent for any uses that are out of tune with the existing neighborhood. And again, because this project and the variances we're asking for actually allow us to build something that is more in tune with the character of the block and of the neighborhood in general. We do not think that granting these variances will set any precedent or establish anything that would in the future be sort of a detriment to the neighborhood itself.
Thank you.
Member Campbell, if you could do 9 and 10, please.
Yes, good morning. How will your request benefit the other businesses in the area?
Sure. Again, as stated earlier, by bringing 24 new households to the neighborhood. Again, this is slated to be workforce housing. We are offering a range of units from the small studios to 2 different sizes of 1 bedrooms to the 3 bedrooms. So you're going to get families, you're going to get multi-generational situations between the units. You're going to get people who are, you know, recent graduates who are getting jobs, who are coming to the area. People who are able to downsize into these units. So we think that, you know, allowing us to build this project would, you know, it's a big win for the North End.
Okay. And this is city-owned property because it's owned by the land bank, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Will your project conflict with the conditions of the sale?
No.
I don't believe so.
Okay. And I do have another question, if I may. Okay. Are you or will this project receive any subsidies such as tax abatements or funding over 500,000 from the city?
I'm not aware of any. Anton would have to answer to that. He's the one working on the financials of it as the developer.
We are still working on subsidies and seeking subsidies. So at this current time, we have none.
Okay. So in the instance that you do receive subsidies from the city, I know that you said at this time you don't have any, will you account for the city's rule on subsidized units for developments over 20, give me 20 buildings or 20 new units?
Yes,
Okay, so you are aware of that guideline?
I am. I am partially aware of it, but I will take a look at it and get with my finance team to make sure that we abide by any rules that the city has for us.
Okay. That's all that I have.
Do Member Johnson or Member Carr have any additional questions?
No, Ms. Campbell.
Yeah.
answered mine.
No? Okay. Member Sherman?
Board Member Sherman. Um, is this in the NEZ zone or have you applied for any zone? Incentives?
It actually is right outside the NEZ zone. I believe we're 3 or 4 blocks outside of the NEZ zone. So we have not applied for any incentives.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Okay, seeing none, you can go ahead and step back. Director Brown, is there anybody on from planning and development?
No.
Okay, no problem. I was just gonna have them speak to the upcoming changes with the carriage house, because we're gonna see this in the next next case also, but I can speak slightly to it because I've attended some of the Plan Detroit meetings, but these carriage houses have always been, or in the past have been a part of, a part of Detroit and very prominent and popular. And we don't have current ordinances that regulate them, which is why they come before us often. And but Plan Detroit does have an ordinance change that they're going to propose that will allow for these carriage houses. So I just wanted to point that out. Any communications, Director Brown?
Yes, and no, board members, most of this came in this morning, so some may be missed. I'll remind the community that we need these on Friday, not Monday morning. First, what came in this morning, let's see. Came in through the Board of Zoning email from Ali, Muheisen. I am writing to inquire. Oh, no, this is. All right, that's not regarding this case. The second one, okay, this is Nick DeFore. He's writing to voice my opposition to the proposed housing development on King. In short, I believe the space should be used for a community park or community center instead. The next one is from, oh, that's the next case. Okay, then I also have emails that the petitioner sent in. The first one is, oh, this is Leverett. This is what happens when things come in the morning, board members. All right, this is King Street, to whom it may concern. After introduction and presentation of the project referenced, I have spoken with members of the North End community, and I author this letter of support to the Greater Woodward CDC and Elvin Jordan as its resident. This is from Electra Fulbright, Historic North End Alliance. Let's see, I think I got, okay, another one here. King Street Block Club, to whom it may concern, our block club and members therein are writing in support of Greater Woodward's CDC development. And you see the members of the have signed this. Several members have signed it. Mr. Chairman, you have that letter in your package.
Correct.
Let's see, I believe one more. The Alger Block Club. The Alger Block Club is delighted to provide this letter of support for the proposed use of the vacant land, and this is signed by Jacinta Lyons, Block Club President. I believe that is all I have at the moment, Mr. Chairman. Again, there may be some that I missed, but things came in this morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll open up public comment. If you'd like to make a public comment for 297 and a bunch of other addresses, King Street, and you're in the auditorium today, please step up to the podium. Good afternoon, ma'am. If you could please press at the bottom of the mic there, if you could press a button so we get a green light.
At the bottom of the mic.
Of the mic. No, that one,
There
yes.
we go. Okay, if we get your name and address, and Inspector Purifor will swear you in.
Good morning. My name is Sheila Johnson, address 277 King, directly adjacent to this property.
Would you raise your right hand, please? Would you raise your right hand, please?
I did.
Would you raise your right hand, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you affirm your testimony before the board today is the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Hey, ma'am, you'll have 2 minutes.
2 minutes. I am a member of the King Street Block Club, and I am in support of the project. I'm probably one of the signatures on the letter. I hope so, but I really like the design of the property. I think it's very nice. It would be a very nice addition to our street. I know it was presented to the Block Club. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend that meeting. My only concern at this point in time about the project, though, is the parking. I wasn't aware really clear. It wasn't clear to me about the carriage houses being apart or how it was going to be designed. And because of the number of units and the fact that our lots are 50 by 100 approximately, which means that would be, what, 250 feet wide for this project and 100 feet. I don't see, once I saw the presentation, I don't see any living space outside or anything appropriate for the residents. I didn't also see where the trash containers would be put. And I'm really concerned about the impact on parking. If there's 24 units, most households have at least 2 vehicles, or if you have a couple or even a family with a young adult, it might even be 3 vehicles to be parked. I don't know where all those cars would fit, quite frankly. And as far as carriage houses go, in the North End, I'm not aware of any. North of us in Boston Edison and Chicago. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for coming down in person today.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anybody else in the auditorium that would like to make public comment on 297 King Street? Seeing nobody, will switch over to our virtual participants. If you're online today and you want to make a public comment specific to 297 King Street, please raise your hand. Public comment specific to 297 King Street, please raise your hand. Anybody, Director O'Brien?
Yes, the first hand raised is Tyson Gersh.
Tyson Gersh, if you could please unmute yourself. We need your name and address. Inspector Purifer will swear you in.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Tyson Gersh. I live at 252 Smith Street, Detroit, Michigan, 48202.
Do you affirm your testimony before the board today is the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Gersh, you have 2 minutes.
Great, thanks. So I'm only here for the BZA rules and didn't even know this was on the agenda. I personally live 0.6 miles from the proposed project site, which in my opinion means you shouldn't really weigh anything I have to say because I'm pretty far away from it. That said, I know Josh Maddox personally. He lives in the North End. He built his own house here. His family is here. Josh is a top tier responsible architect. And immediately I texted people that I know who live on King Street, the people that would be directly impacted. They all knew about it. They all support it. Like Josh, these guys know what they're doing. This is kind of how you're supposed to do it. You talk to the people that are affected, and that is exactly what happened here. I'd also point out the design is amazing, right? Like we sit here and hear these huge developers all day long talk about how it's impossible to build anything to scale. that harmonizes with the community. And oh, look, here's a project. Case in point, it's totally possible. This is the best looking project I've seen proposed in our neighborhood in modern history. I'd love to live next door to something like this. This type of project is totally possible. And I'd point out, technically this is 2.5 times more density than the master plan prescribes. And I think this is an instance where, we have the conversation, and if the community is on board with it, which it appears it is, I know I am, even though I'm a little further away from it, but this is a reasonable, tasteful project that the BZA should be supporting. And it's doable, right? And we got to stop listening to these billionaire out-of-state developers tell us that the only thing that is profitable is to jam in 4 to 5 times the density allowable. 2 scale projects are buildable. You have one right in front of you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gersh. Anybody else, Director Brown?
Yes. The next caller with their hand raised is Detroit resident.
Detroit resident, if you could please unmute yourself. Detroit resident, please unmute yourself. We need your name and address, and Inspector Peerford will swear you in. Detroit resident.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Need your name and
Yes,
address, and the
Joanne.
inspector will swear you in, please.
Yes, Joanne Warwick, Warwyck.
Do you affirm your testimony?
264 Smith Street. And 249 Algier Street, the next block over.
Do you affirm your testimony before the board today is the truth?
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, ability, and belief, yes.
Okay, Ms. Warwick, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, well, unfortunately, I'm straddling a bunch of meetings right now. But what I did see there was something where this developer attempted to build something that fits the architectural character of the neighborhood and is not out of scale. And as I heard another caller say, by the way, I went by there yesterday. The grass is not mowed, but there was a lot of raining, so a lot of people haven't mowed. And the city gets all bent out of shape about people mowing their grass. But the people who want to build North End Landing, whose project you approved, they're mowing over the garbage constantly. They've totally violated their agreement with the land bank. But what this project shows that projects can be built more to scale, although it will increase traffic in the area. And there is a lot more, there's a big apartment building the next block up. So I do have a concern about that. But this project shows that the people who wanted to build North End Landing, who were so disrespectful to the would-be most impacted residents, secretly planned around us. They could have built something to scale, and then they're blaming us because the project is delayed. Well, that was the business risk that they took. And if they were to build something more to scale, although this development is here because they're out of scale, but not at such a level as this other development that was just so pushed upon us in the most unfriendly, unneighborly, really makes everybody at the city pushing it look bad. They don't even hire people from the neighborhood. These guys come over.
Thank you, Ms. Warwick. We
Mr.
appreciate
Chairman,
your support for the
please
project.
remind people to speak to the
Right.
case that we're dealing with. We don't want to infuse other cases into the.
Understood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The last hand raised is my phone.
You said my home?
My phone, PHONE, my phone.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, if you could please state your name and address, and Inspector Peerford will swear you in.
Yes, hello. This is Evan Fisher, 306 King Street, right across from the proposed development.
Do you affirm your testimony before the board today is the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, you have 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you. Yes, I'd also like to voice my support for this project. They've been very forthcoming. Developers have been very forthcoming about information and approaching us, the Block Club, neighbors. I do want to echo some parking concerns, less for myself, more for other neighbors who couldn't be here today. Just that the street does fill up occasionally, even though we don't have much density right now. And it can be hard to park for those who don't have a garage or driveway. Possibly one solution is either making the road a one-way and having parking on both sides, or in order to keep traffic moving, I think we'd probably have to prohibit parking on one side if we wanted to keep it a two-way in this scenario. But yeah, generally speaking, approve or support the project. Hope to continue having good communication from the team. And thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody
Mr.
else?
Chairman, you
Director?
had one other hand, Wanda Lewis.
Wanda Lewis, if you could please unmute yourself. Wanda Lewis.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we need your name and address, and Inspector Purifer will swear you in.
My name is Wanda Lewis. I'm at 328 King Street, adjacent from the project.
Do you affirm your testimony before the board today is the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Ms. Lewis, you have 2 minutes.
My concern is parking. The people who have studio apartments, where would they park it on the street? We are over. I mean, I'm just going to piggyback on what everyone else is saying. That yes, and is the property who's going to upkeep the property? Because I like to keep my property kind of like we all do on kind of pretty much on King Street. Who's going to upkeep the property? Who's going to make sure that that grass is cut and everything is manageable? And again, that's the people who have the studio apartments. Where would they park at?
Okay, thank you, Ms. King. Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, that was the last hand.
Pardon me?
That was the last hand.
Okay, great. Okay, we're going to close public comment then. Mr. Flintoff, if you'd like to come back up and address some of the concerns that we heard, please. And I'll kind of lead you through. So there was one concern was kind of like the living area and the trash. So maybe you can explain in between the two buildings, there's some squared out stuff that looks like individual green areas for the residents.
Yeah, so in between the areas, between the building and the carriage houses, there are individual yard spaces that are kind of intended to be fenced in. Between the two garage carriage house buildings, there's a dumpster location to serve the apartments of carriage house units. And then additionally, the intention was that Corville containers for trash and recycling would be stored in the garages for each of the units and then brought to the street at the alley side on pickup day to make sure that there was sufficient capacity for garbage.
Okay.
As far as property management, the owner is intending to hold this development. They are members of the community. They're constantly by the property. So they will be maintaining the lawn and the caretaker of the property and the exterior, as well as the management of the occupancy. I understand the parking concerns. The ordinance does allow us to reduce to 0.75, and we're only 2 deficient of that number. So, from a practicality purposes, we understand that, a lot of people do have additional cars, but we're close on the ordinance as we could be with the site. We do continue to explore other opportunities for parking arrangements. If, we can find additional secure parking, we would.
I'd point out too that all your parking's been closed, correct?
16 of the 18 required are closed, yes.
Yeah. And, so I think that's a nice trade-off to have enclosed parking both for, for safety and aesthetics of the neighborhood both. So we also heard one more comment about the density of the carriage house, which I think not the density, but density or the size, of the building. I think that the parking solution is the reason that that's there. But if you want to talk a little bit about the size of the carriage houses.
In really the carriage house's size is based on maximizing the number of parking spaces for the site for secure covered parking. And then the size of the units are based on trying to bring lower scale size units to the market. The 575 is a pretty common size carriage house for a 1-bedroom. It's smaller, so it allows us to keep the rental cost at a lower price per square foot. which again, just trying not to have massive, huge, rent numbers, but have a range of numbers so that different types of people who move in the neighborhood can afford different size homes and bring a scale and diversity to the development.
Any other questions for Mr. Flintoff on the board?
I have one.
Yes. Member Johnson?
Yes. What was the size for the studios?
The studios are actually larger, and
Ac-
the reason.
Actually, I misspoke when I spoke earlier about the sizes. There are um, uh, 2 1-bedrooms and 2 studios in the basement or in the garden level of the 2 front buildings. The studio apartments are actually in the mid 500s. So they're a little bit smaller than the 1-bedrooms that are in the carriage houses, and the 1-bedrooms in the garden level of the front buildings are at that 800 square foot. So there's essentially the small studios in the garden level. There's the small 1-bedrooms in the carriage house buildings. There are large 1-bedrooms in the garden level, and then the larger 3-bedroom units are the upper levels of the front buildings.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Member Johnson?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Flintoff? Yes.
So in terms of the parking, so you're gonna have enclosed parking for how many units?
There's 16 enclosed spaces, so each unit would get 1 space.
Okay, and there are 24 dwellings?
Right.
Okay, so the other parking, the other residents will be parking on the street?
They would be, yes.
Okay, so any future plans for like adding a parking structure or a parking area?
We wouldn't add a parking structure because that wouldn't be appropriate for the neighborhood, but we would.
Well, parking lot.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
understand.
yeah. Right now, there's nothing we've considered. We're looking at options, but nothing has been able to be firmed up as far as that regards. That's where we're at on that.
Mr. Flintoff, are you gonna be charging for these parking spaces?
No, I believe they would be included with the rental of the units.
Any other questions for Mr. Flintoff? Okay, if you want to step back, we'll go into a board-only discussion and a motion is always.
Yeah, one question.
Member Sherman?
How do you determine who gets the parking spots if it's only 16 available?
I don't have that information. I would probably assume they would be the main building units that would get the parking, and the carriage houses would be as the smaller units not, but I can't really speak specifically how the developer is arranging his selection.
Okay, thank you.
Member Parker?
I'm all set.
You're all set? Okay. Any other questions?
No, I'm good.
All right. Now you can step back and we'll go into a board member only discussion, and a motion is always in order.
Mr. Chair.
Member Watson?
I'm always cognizant when we have someone, a former director or chief, especially a building safety engineering coming forward. Ms. Johnson, it's good to see you. I know you didn't present yourself as such, but I give weight to that. And the issue here, though, is the developer and the architect have met the 16 issues, or 16 of the parking spaces. Only 2 is deficient. And that's where they are. Even though outside of that, we've got other issues about parking. They're just 2 deficient. And given that circumstance, I would be in favor of approving the requested variances the petitioner is asking for outside of any other reasoning.
Any other comments from the board? I'll say that I too would be in favor of this project. However, I would encourage during the motion that we set a condition that the petitioner is not allowed to charge for the parking. I'm in a situation over in Corktown where we have required parking, just like this is required, and the developers are charging $250 a month for parking. So their parking lots sit empty and our streets sit full. I would encourage whoever makes the motion, if we could put that condition that they're not allowed to charge for the parking, that they need to build that into their rents. I would then be in favor of this, of the other requested variances. I think it's a great looking project. I agree with Mr. Gersh that, as far as the aesthetics and, the brownstone kind of look and the brick and stuff, I think it's great. We also have letters of support from the Historic North End Alliance, as well as the Block Club. The Block Club's got 24 signatures on it. And then even today, we had one letter from Nick that, opposed, but we had 4 people, one of which came down, took time out of their day to come down, actually, and appear in person. But we had four neighbors in support. So, like I say, I would be in favor of this project. Member Bowman?
Yeah, when I saw the pictures, it looked so familiar to me, having lived, in various parts of Detroit. It looked the way the bay windows stuck out and kind of, the adjacent units and all that. It's a design that blends in quite nicely. The parking is an issue. One thing I do notice also with the numbers though is I think it was supposed to be 18 and they only had 16, and there's 10% variance or allowed discretionary prior to us, and that's very close. I mean, 1.8 versus 2. 1.8 being 10% of 18. So it's pretty close to what would have been possible to get by without us, but I'm just not quite there. So yeah, I don't really have any objection to this moving forward in its current form, though I think the amendment regarding the parking is a good idea. It hadn't occurred to me that people might not utilize the very parking space that's really available because it could be priced out of their range. That's a good amendment.
Okay. Any other comments? Excuse me, Member Campbell?
So I just wanted to say, it is a very beautiful project, in a very unique neighborhood, the North End. I know that the term I know that we're here, the variance discusses parking, but I know that the term workforce housing was mentioned multiple times. I just want to just also remind or echo, if there's any subsidies or any funds or tax abatements that the developers and the owners do take into consideration, possibly subsidizing units. So it is truly reflected of the workforce in Detroit, and that there may be in the future considering some subsidized units being added. I know, again, we're here for variances, but I did just want to add that I am also in favor of the project.
Okay. Yeah. If they get, certain subsidies, that'll trigger also the need for 20% affordable housing. So it sounds like they don't have all their ducks in a row when it comes to their financing, but the city will certainly make sure that if they hit that threshold, that they'll have to provide some affordable units. Any other comments? Motion's always in order.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Member Johnson.
So yes, I want to say, I'm in support of this. It's well designed. It's something that's needed in our communities, especially for the workforce, but we also know they need affordability. So hopefully if some subsidies are able to be given, that they would be, considered for that. I do also have the concern with the parking, but I do believe, with everything else, as our communities grow, that's something that probably, that should be looked at. And in thinking about that, someone did mention about, maybe changing the street
doing something there to provide for more parking, because I know of a lot of areas off of Woodward. At nighttime, the parking is full. People are rushing home to get parking spaces because they don't want to park up the street. So that would be a concern for safety, but I think it's a good project.
And I also, appreciate the fact that the developer has some 3-bedroom units. Because 3-bedroom unit supply in Detroit is 0. So it's nice to get some 3-bedroom units also. All right, I think we're all kind of in consensus here. We just need a motion. And with that motion, we need 3 conditions. The first condition is that Mr. Heath will provide Director Ibran with a letter that explains his relationship to the project. We also need a condition that they will provide a letter of understanding or a signed letter of understanding with the land bank. And then I would appreciate a condition also on not being able to charge for the parking. Can we get a motion? Yes.
I just wanted to add a clarification for your motions, your conditions. With regard to the parking, I do believe, because I'm just reading it quickly to make sure that we do it the proper way. You can tie the parking stipulation to your variance, but let's just make sure that the record is clear that you're tying it into a public concern regarding either a public concern regarding, traffic congestion, general welfare. It can't be tied to the concern of just regulating how that business does parking with its residents or how it makes money. It has to be tied specifically to a public concern.
Okay.
If,
So
if you choose to do that.
Okay, so with that parking condition, we need to state also that it's as a result of multiple concerns from the residents, and that we're trying to help them solve those concerns. Now we just need a motion, or we're going to be here all day.
Well,
I mean, I guess the chair can make a motion if I have to. I need to get my approval criteria.
I have one more thing.
Pardon me?
I have one more thing.
Okay.
Just one more thing, since
All
you're
right. We have 4 conditions.
you're cooking on your motion. Regarding the letter, I do have the letter of authority from Greater, what is it? Greater
Woodward.
Woodward Community authorizing Mr. Flintoff's organization to appear today. So I'm just closing some loops. As Director Brown indicated, some of these things just came, so I didn't have a chance to review all of it. There is a letter dated June 16th, authorizing 4545 architecture. Mr. Heath, if we can, and that's for the most part fine, but since you indicated that you're the real estate developer, I would still have appreciated a letter that included you as well. So that would be the only remaining piece. We always tie in all of the parts when we don't have the actual owner here or a representative of the actual owner here. Is that understood,
Okay.
Mr. Heath, if you're still there? Okay, well, we'll make sure we tell Mr. Heath. And that is officially all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Attorney Savage. If nobody else will make a motion, I guess the chair will. All right. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the requested variances in BZA case 2026-00030, 297, 307, 315, 323, and 329 King Street. Specific for the side yard setback, rear setback for building C and D, and also the distance between building C and D, as well as a 2-space parking deficiency. The applicant has met the approval criteria of 50-4-121. Specifically, this is a by right use, so it is consistent with the master plan. the petitioner has demonstrated that there's practical difficulties because of the size of the site and the fact that they want to create a, you know, aesthetically pleasing project. And to do so, they'd like to do multiple buildings as opposed to one large building. They've demonstrated that really there's not going to be any adverse effects, and if there are any adverse effects or any problems with the community, they're locally based and well known and happy to to take care of any problems or issues that might arise. There's not a lot of difference between their site and other sites around them, except for obviously the size and the fact that they want to do 4 buildings instead of one large building. One large building, they probably wouldn't have had to come before the board at all. And obviously, this is a land bank owned property, and their intentions when they formed an agreement with the land bank were to do exactly what they're proposing today. With this motion, I'd like to impose 3 conditions. The first condition is on parking, that they're not allowed to charge for the parking. We've heard multiple concerns from the neighborhood, and we have an obligation as a board to protect the neighborhood. So one condition will be that they are not able to charge for the parking. Additionally, Mr. Heath needs to provide a letter to Director Iberon stating what his relationship is to the project, and we also need a signed letter of understanding with the Detroit Land Bank.
Second.
All right, so we got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
BZA case 2026-00030, Timothy Flintoff requesting dimensional variances for the proposed construction of four multi-family dwellings has been granted. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is our next case in?
BZA case 2026-00029. The BZA petitioner is Blake Hatterman. The owner is Sarah Greenwood. The location is 1613 Leverett between 10th and 11th in an R2 two-family residential district. Blake Hatterman requests dimensional variances to reconstruct a new garage. This case was plan reviewed. The subject site is within an R2 two-family residential district. We will now hear from Inspector Purefoy.
Thank you, Director. We're hearing this case today because the board shall be authorized to hear dimensional variance requests for matters that are beyond the scope of the building department's administrative adjustments for variance of minimum setback. Hearing this case under section 5012-421, number of buildings on a zoning lot in an R2 district. Hearing this case under section 54-131-6, permitted dimensional variances, and 54-121, the approval criteria. Hearing this case under the legal description attached, our attorney will assess ownerships. The building department's plan review comments state, please provide a recorded Board of Zoning Appeals grant for the following variances. Section 5012-431, number of buildings on a zoning lot in the R2 district, and deficient side yard setback, 10 feet, 6 inches combined setback allowed. The dimensions were not provided on the site plans according to the plan review, but they are deficient side yard setback. Again, the petition is before the board to reconstruct a new garage in the rear of the R2 district, rear of the home in the R2 district. Subject property is located on Leverett Street. Front view of the subject property in question, there's a vacant lot immediately to the east of the subject property, but the garage is in the rear of the subject property, or it will be. Front view again of the subject home to the right on the screen, and vacant lot immediately adjacent. View looking down Leverett to residential properties adjacent, looking to the west. View looking down the street again, looking to the west. This is looking at the east side of the home. Again, this vacant lot is not part of the project. View looking down the frontage of the subject subject site. This is looking at the corner of the street. Again, the vacant lot is not part of the project. View, going towards the alley, going to the rear of the subject property. View looking down the alley behind the subject property, looking to the west. This is a rear view of the subject property in question. Looking back towards the rear of the home, the garage would be in the rear of the subject property. Looking down the alley, looking to the west. And a closer view of the rear of the subject property. Again, there are two variances needed. One, because there'll be considered a carriage house, which is more than one residential property on the zoning lot, and the side yard variance. And that completes the visuals, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Inspector Peerforth. Hi, folks. Who's going to be speaking today? Everybody?
Probably Blake and I. I'm the owner of the house. I'm Sarah Greenwood.
Okay. So that microphone's a little funky. You got to
Okay,
really get close.
probably me. My name is Sarah Greenwood. I own the property.
So you're the only person speaking?
Probably Blake as well.
Okay. So whoever's going to be speaking today, we need your name and address, and Inspector Peerforth will swear you in.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Blake Hatterman. I'm the architect for the project. My address is 2010 Roseland Avenue in Royal Oak, Michigan.
My name is Sarah Greenwood. I live at 1613 Leverett.
Is the other gentleman going to speak today?
This is my husband. He does.
Let's swear you in just in case.
I can speak. My name is Brian Dukop. I live at 1613 Leverett Street.
Would you all raise your right hands for me? Do you all affirm your testimony before the board today is the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, folks, the first thing we have to do is basically prove that you own a home and that you have the ability to speak today. And Attorney Savage is going to do that by establishing what we call standing.
Good morning, Erica Savage on behalf of the Law Department again. These questions are designed to assess your standing pursuant to section 50-3-3 of the City of Detroit zoning ordinance. Any party that petitions the Board of Zoning Appeals must possess sufficient standing, which means you either have a legal interest in the property or you're authorized by the property owner to appear on their behalf. The Law Department did a search at the public records for 1613 Leverett, and it was recorded a deed of personal representative or conservator recorded on July 13th. I'm sorry, what's going on, Erica? July 16th, 2021, and it reflects the owner as Sarah Greenwood. Is that correct? Was it Detroit? Yeah, Sarah Greenwood. Please forgive me. Sometimes my records, I don't do the best job at my own job. Sarah Greenwood, you are here today.
Yep.
And as the owner of the property, have you authorized these gentlemen who are here with you, including your husband, to speak on behalf of your property?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Is there anybody else throughout this process who's authorized to speak on behalf of the property?
No.
Okay. Based on the statements placed on the record, I'm satisfied with standing to proceed.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you, Attorney Savage. So what brings you in today?
We're looking to build a carriage house behind our house. So we live in Corktown, right by where you're struggling with some of that parking. And so we would like to be able to park in a garage. We had a garage there that was unusable. And so we would like to make a structure there that we can put our cars, especially during the winter, especially as our streets get more and more busy, as more people are parking on those streets. And we also love this house a lot. We put a lot of love into it and care into it. And we are hoping that Brian's family can come and stay there above the carriage house and spend some time with us there in California. We're thinking about growing our family, and the house feels a little tight for some of the things that we'll need to do. We're hoping that we can extend the life of us in that house is really what we're looking for.
Okay. Seems pretty straightforward. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, anything else? Go for it.
Sure. Yes, I'll just add some technical commentary to the dialogue here. The existing garage was dilapidated so badly that the owners aren't able to park in there. It was generally used for a little bit of storage, but it had failed. The foundation had failed, the roof was failing, the walls were badly racking. So we made the determination that it was best to take that garage down. And the proposal that we're making today is that we are replacing basically the footprint of that garage from side to side in the lot width, and then extending that just a little bit to allow for access to the upper floor apartment, and then to actually park a car that's a modern car. The existing garage was rather shallow. It would have been difficult to do that, so we're upgrading it to modern standards.
So you're increasing the distance between the garage and the house a little bit?
Yes, the existing garage, I think, was around 20 feet deep, which is pushing it to get a car into and have access around it. And it wouldn't allow for access for the stair the way we have the building designed. So we are extending that a few feet, and then the width is the same. We did submit a site plan that does have dimensions to BZA on it, and I believe the deficiency is about 2 feet 10 inches from the total of 10 feet 6.
Yeah, we've got the.
Okay, very good.
Report. Yep. Okay.
We already do have Historic District Commission approval for the design. It is in the Historic District, and we also have a permit pending BZA ruling. We'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
So that's a certificate of appropriateness?
Yes. Yep.
All right. Any questions from the board for yes. Member Parker?
So, in relation to you building the garage, you're gonna put a carriage house on top of the garage?
Correct.
Okay. And so, for safety purposes, will there be stairs? How do they gain entry to the carriage house?
There's an internal stairway that will have a dedicated access door. There is no access from the unit into the garage, so it's a dedicated door that would be locked. And there would also be a wall light outside that to improve safety.
So a private entry or?
Private entry, yes.
Okay.
And you stated that this is going to be used for family, so it's not a short-term rental, long-term rental?
Correct. It's simply for us to be able to work from home and for his family to come and stay for longer periods of time.
Any other questions? Member Bowman?
Yeah, so is the garage not intended for use by the people living in the carriage house?
So the people living in the carriage house will be for us when we're working, when his parents are not in town. So his parents, when they come to town, don't have a car. It's our cars. We live at the home would be parked underneath the carriage house in the garage structure. That makes sense.
I guess what I'm trying to figure out, why wouldn't you want access directly to the garage from the house so they don't have to go outside to go into the
Oh,
garage?
no. So the access to the carriage house would not come direct from the house. It's just to protect and separate the living dwelling from where our cars would be, just to keep things nice and clean and organized and safe. Did I explain that well?
Okay, I mean, sorry, you faded up. I couldn't hear the
Oh,
last
sorry.
things you said.
The noise is a bit challenging. There's not going to be a connection from the house to the garage. So the garage is going to have a place for our cars, and there will be a separate entrance separated from the cars to get into the upstairs unit. But that's mostly for cleanliness and safety and keeping a living space to feel like a living space versus a car garage. That's the only reason we're separating the two.
Okay, I guess I'm just not sure why you wouldn't want the people in the carriage house to have access directly to the garage without having to go outside.
There's no real reason. I don't know if I have a good answer for that. It's simply that we don't envision the folks living above the carriage house, to both us and Brian's parents, to need access to it.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah,
That's personal preference.
Yeah, it's a personal preference. We're not planning on renting it out, so we're not thinking that the person in the unit above needs access to the car.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions from the board? All right. Seeing no other questions, if you want to go ahead and step back, we're going to have a seat. We're going to hear from our departments now. And Inspector Connor from BC.
Good morning once again. Inspector Connor Pierce here with Building Safety Environmental Engineering Department. Once again, as was stated before, this is located in the R2H zoning district. That would be the two-family residential zoning district, as well as the H designating that this is located in the Corktown Historic District. A certificate of appropriateness was issued on November 18th of 2025 for the design by the Historic District Commission. As was stated before, the carriage house here violates the section of the ordinance stating that no more than one principal dwelling unit is permitted on a zoning lot within the R2 zoning district. Currently the city of Detroit does not recognize accessory dwelling units as a structure. We would consider these to be two separate principal dwelling units. As board member, as Chairman Roberts stated earlier, that there is currently discussion of amending that, but as it currently states, the ordinance does not allow for multiple residential structures in the R2 on one lot. The other variances that are being requested today are merely dimensional variances. I do want to note that this case just went through standard plan review for a building permit, as a site plan review and a special land use hearing was not required for this case. So the zoning division of BC did not review this. I believe that's all I have here. Oh, I did want to again state for the record, as it seemed the board was hinting at, that a short-term rental would not be permitted in the city of Detroit as a home occupation here.
Thank you. Any questions for the inspector? Okay, seeing none, thanks. All right, if we can have the.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
you can come on down. The petitioner provided a detailed response, which I'm going to share. I can read these responses, or you can have him respond, or you can ask the questions. But he did provide what looks like detailed answers to all of the questions, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I think we'll just go through the questions and you can kind of reiterate or read from your notes, and then we'll see if we have any additional questions. So we're going with the approval criteria, and we'll start with Member Johnson, 1 and 2, please.
According to the SBR report, the master plan indicates that your does your plan fit the master plan?
Yes, we feel it does. We reviewed the master plan draft, and specifically stated in the Corktown section of that, the master plan recognizes the difficulty in developing lots that have our particular dimensional issues, being narrow lots, very dense, urban context and so forth. So we do feel we meet goal 1 and number 2 of that, and also in relationship to recognition of the lot widths. Goal number 1 was reinforcing sound neighborhoods. Obviously, we did a contextual study of carriage houses throughout Corktown, and I believe the number was around 30% of the properties have similar development stars. So we're not doing anything out of context in the neighborhoods. And then we are also increasing the density of the site by adding an additional dwelling unit to the property, and without destroying the historical character of the carriage house or the house.
Okay. So you've basically, the second question is just asking you to explain the deficiency and why you cannot meet the letter of the ordinance.
Correct. I would reference the first comment being that our lot width is only 33 feet wide, which is particularly very narrow. And we do want to replace the existing footprint. We're not going beyond that. If this variance was not approved, we would not be able to provide the appropriate access the way the building is designed to the second floor.
Thank you.
Number 3 and 4, Member Carr.
Campbell.
Yeah, Campbell. Member Campbell.
How does the requested variance or administrative adjustment eliminate a practical difficulty for you?
Yes, it allows the owners to utilize their property by moving their cars from the street into a structure that's sound. It also, again, then allows us to provide a development that's consistent with the neighborhood.
Thank you. Explain how your business will not cause any adverse impacts on the other businesses around you.
We don't feel there's any adverse conditions that this will cause. It does place the building close to the property line. However, there are building restrictions that we will comply with regarding fire separation between the property line and our buildings. That'll actually make this building safer than it was before.
Member Parker, 5 and 6, please.
Morning. Can you please explain how any adverse impacts resulting from the variance or administrative adjustment will be mitigated to the maximum extent practicable?
Yes, again, we will provide the construction that protects the building from the side property lines. A number of the garages that are constructed in Corktown, even directly adjacent, are built directly on the property line. So we feel that keeping the building back from the property line and then providing the proper fire separation construction will do that.
Yeah, that was a concern of mine. How and why is this requested variance or administrative adjustment required to compensate for some unusual aspects of the site or the proposed development that is not shared by homeowners in general?
Again, this is a very common occurrence in Corktown, but the dimension of the property being so narrow, we can't provide access to the second floor if we didn't have this variance. We also looked at if the variance is not approved, it would still be difficult to provide a 2-car garage that meets the owner's needs in the same lot width and meeting the setbacks.
Great, thank you.
Member Watson, 7 and 8, please.
Please explain how the special circumstances and conditions that account for the need for your variance is not a result of your action. In other words, when you purchased the property, what were your plans?
Yes, the lot width obviously was determined when the existing building was, the existing site was platted. You know, there's obviously different there were different requirements for the sites at that period of time. There were different requirements that the owners would have to meet. So we're trying to we're just trying to build in the same footprint and not exacerbate that.
And will you be conducting any other business other than what you stated on the record today?
No.
Thank you.
Member Bowman, 9 and 10, please.
Sure. How will your request benefit other businesses, property owners, residents in the area? Is there anything, and also is there anything we could do that would, other than what you're requesting today? In other words, if you could explain how any lesser relaxation would not give you substantial relief.
Yes. The design is as compact and efficient as it can be to allow access to the second floor. It does allow the owners to remove their cars from Leverett Street to help reduce the parking overload, allow them to use their property the way that is intended. They do have good access off the alley. It's a little bit challenging regarding the grades, but they can make it in and out of their garage relatively easily. I think we've covered everything else that was listed in the write-up.
Thank you. And
Member Sherman, do you have any additional questions?
Yeah.
No?
It's not, there's no city-owned land involved in this.
No, this is privately owned.
Any additional questions for the petitioner from the board? Okay, if you want to go ahead and excuse me, step back, we're going to go into public comment. If you pay attention to the public comment, if there's any concerns from the public, we'll ask you to come back up and address those. All right, any communications, Director Brown?
No, once again, the petitioner did provide his responses in writing.
Okay. And in the board packet, we do have one letter of support from a neighbor, so. All right, okay, we'll move to public comment now. If you're in the auditorium today and you want to make a public comment specific to 1613 Leverett, please come down to the podium. Auditorium public comment 1613 Leverett. Seeing nobody, we'll switch to our virtual participants. If you're out there on Zoom and you want to make a public comment on 1613 Leverett, please raise your hand. Public comment specific to 1613 Leverett, please raise your hand. Anybody, Director?
We have one hand, Tyson Gersh.
Tyson Gersh, if you could please unmute yourself. We need your name and address, and Inspector Purefour will swear you in.
I'm so sorry. I don't need to comment on this one. Thank you, though.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else, Director Brown?
No other.
Okay, we'll close out public comment, then go into board member only discussion, and a motion is always in order. Well, I'll make a public comment or make a comment then. This is in my district and literally a block from where I reside. I'm in favor of this. It does a couple of things. Number one, what they're planning on doing is basically building on the site that was there previously, which triggers the side yard setback requirement. But the garage is going to provide a couple parking spaces, so they'll be able to park in a garage, which is obviously safer and removes two people parking out on Leverett Street. And as I stated earlier, during the previous case, we've got a major parking problem in Corktown. So anything that leads to less intense street parking, I'm in favor of. Also, the carriage house itself, we have a number of carriage houses in Corktown. A couple of them have been there all 14 years that I've lived in the neighborhood. And we, as a board, have approved several others. And I can probably think of, within a 2-block area where I live, 7 or 8 probably carriage houses, as well as we've approved many carriage houses in North Corktown as well, just a few blocks away. And then also we look at the fact that the cities recognize that these carriage houses are popular and important enough that they're working on an ordinance change that will allow them. So like I say, I'd be in favor. Any other comments from the board? Member Bowman?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a positive contribution to community. It's good that they have construction that will make things more functional and increases living space while having the parking, which I understand is our chair has mentioned is a great issue in the area, that everyone have sufficient parking. So this seems to cover all the bases. And it's basically some part of a primary residence, and the people living there are comfortable with that. So it works for me.
Any other comment? Can we get a motion from somebody? Make me do all of it today.
Yes, I can do this one. I'll give it a shot.
All right.
Okay. All right. So in the case here of BZA case number BZA 2026-00029 in Council District 6 for petitioner Blake Hatterman and owner Sarah Greenwood, that at the location of 1613 Leverett between 10th and 11th in the R2 family residential district, that we have its legal description is it's West Trumbull, 56 to 60 McCohen sub of or live. OL 96 Woodbridge Farm L3 P50, comma W space C space R space 248 by 130. That we approve Blake Hatterman's request for dimensional variance to reconstruct a new garage. In this case, the plan was reviewed and the subject site is within the R2 zone. It is a two-family residential district. The board shall act now under its authorization, which allows it to hear dimensional variance requests for matters that are beyond the scope of BC's 10% administrative adjustments for a variance of the minimum subspecs. This is in compliance with section 50-12-431. Number of buildings on a zoning lot in the R2 district and deficient side yard setback. And this also is within ordinance sections 50-4-131, 6 permitted dimensional variances, and 50-4-121 approval criteria. And the approval criteria then including that the requested variance or administrative adjustment is consistent with the master plan spirit and purpose and intent of this chapter, that the practical difficulties that prevent the applicant from carrying out the strict letter of the chapter have been addressed, that the requested variance or administrative adjustment eliminates practical difficulty for the applicant, that the requested variance or administrative adjustment will have no significant adverse impact on the health, safety, general welfare of surrounding property owners or the general public or upon the natural environment, and that that any adverse impacts resulting from the variance or administrative adjustments will be mitigated to the maximum extent practicable, and that the requested variance or administrative adjustment requirement to compensate for some unusual aspect site proposed development and that is not shared by landowners in general, and the special circumstances and conditions that account for the need for the variance or administrative adjustment is not the result of the petitioner's actions, and the variance and administrative adjustment will not permit the establishment within the zoning district of any use which is prohibited in that district, and that the variance administrative judgments will do substantial justice to the petitioner as well as to the property owners in the area, and that a lesser relaxation would not give substantial relief to the petitioner. This is privately owned land.
Okay, got a motion? Can we get a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
BZA case 2026-00029, Blake Hatterman requesting dimensional variances to reconstruct a new garage has been granted. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go into a continuation of hearing on our rules and procedures. And we're going to start off with some comments from Attorney Savage.
It's up to you. I got the PowerPoint up.
Morning.
Morning.
Afternoon. We completed the hearing a while now. I believe that was in January. December.
January and March.
Okay, so where we left off previously was for the board to review comment, but because we have a lot of new members, I just wanted to take just a couple minutes just to give a very high point of what we were trying to accomplish with the new rules. So this is a condensed version for those who watched the video of everything that I went over previously. Director, can you go to there so I could see what I said? So overall, the whole purpose of this was to update. The main reason was to update the rules because they were last adopted in 2017. And we had to increase the rules to have a 9-member board, as well as update all of the code provisions from the 1984 code to the 2019 code. So that was the gist of what we did. In the interim, the way the city approaches drafting administrative rules has changed tremendously. And so we also have a completely different look. So as anybody who's looked at the current rules and how they're formatted and the proposed rules or how they're formatted, it's just a completely different look, in addition to creating two different sets of rules. So this particular hearing is the administrative rules and procedures under section 2-111 of the charter, which requires a public hearing, public comment. Well, all of your decisions require public hearings and public comments, but it is a more tedious process to amend. The second set of rules that you have before you are under section 2-110 of the charter, which are your general provisions and member rules. Those are rules that we have parsed out. So if you ever need to change them, you will be able to do so more easily than a public hearing process to publish in the legal news. So, the next slide. Oh, this is a lot of just what I just said already, because I didn't realize this was on the second slide. So this is just I was just going over the difference between the two, and how one requires a public hearing and the other one doesn't. And some of the things that oh, this was how we conducted the hearing previously. So I'm sorry, this is originally my original hearing. So this is how we went through the hearing. We went through the 211. I did an overview and we had questions and answers. Then I did the 2111. So that's just still there. We'll go to the next one because I do believe I keep going. Mr. Rebron, the next slide. I do believe I just broke it down just generally that the 2110 rules, which are your member rules, it's just going to give us the increased number of the board members. We talked about the elections. Currently, the elections of the board take place, and that was something that you all discussed just a little bit. We moved when the board holds this election for offices to the first meeting in January versus the December meeting, the last meeting of the year, I mean. There was a discussion as to why that was. Someone can refresh my memory, but that was one of the things that was done. And then talked about amending the rules themselves. But they were pretty much general rules. They talked about the BZA office, the director, where you're located, things that are all administrative in nature and doesn't require public comment. The 2111 rules has 7 parts. And like I said, they were reformatted. It has a table of contents now, which we don't have. And those are the 7 parts that are up on the screen that the rules are now in, hopefully in an attempt to help navigate them better when you're looking at them. And these are some of the notable items. When I did the previous presentation, we were going through each of those as far as some of the changes that were made to the rules. This is just all the numbers and where they are in the rules. If anybody still had any questions about them or if anything came up, as you guys recall, there was a very lengthy discussion about ethical provisions. We didn't change the ethical provisions. What we did is we changed the rules to where we adopted what the code says, because you all are subject to the Board of Ethics code of the ethics ordinance. And so we basically just said that we are adopting the ethics code, so we didn't have to have dual representation of how you approach ethical issues. And then we subsequently had the ethics board come and do a presentation and hash out a lot of the questions and concerns that were remaining. But we did not change any of the current law. What we did is eliminate a couple things that were in the rules that were not in fact aligned with the ordinance of how we approach an ethical concern, which should be determined by the Board of Ethics. as opposed to you policing yourselves, and how we will go about doing that. And so, yeah, I don't think that there's anything else that's notable to bring up unless anybody have any questions. What was the next slide, Director Brown? I don't know if I had any more. It may have been the last one. Oh, yeah. Yeah, because the last one was just and that was pretty much it. I know that was the very condensed version. We met previously for hours, but like I said, after we went through the presentation, there were a lot of public commenters here who submitted written comments, and those were all forwarded to the board. The board had not had a chance to review them all. And that was the main reason for the recess at that time. Other issues of things going on made the hearing go longer, get pushed down longer than we had hoped, but now we are bringing it back. So, did anybody have any questions?
Any questions?
Yes.
Member Bowman?
Yeah, first of all, I had this very lengthy publication. I'm not sure if you gave this to us at the same meeting or at a previous meeting. Do you recall?
Director Brown.
It's
That he's holding.
and it's
Zoning book.
yeah, it's I think it's the entire.
It's the entire zoning.
Yeah, it says City of Detroit BZA guidance documents. Does that contain all of the parts that are being affected by what you're discussing today?
Oh, so that's a zoning ordinance?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, we're not doing, so the zoning ordinance itself is amended by zoning text amendments that go through the CPC and city council. This board doesn't do that. That's just what we operate under. We operate under chapter 50, and all of the rules that are promulgated by this board are incorporated into chapter 50 of the code. But no, we are not in any way amending the code.
Okay. And then I'm looking here at this draft. This will be an amendment that you can make. Can I make amendments at this meeting to this draft?
Yes, that's what we would like today.
Oh, good.
Today is
Okay.
any outstanding questions or any amendments, because when we have the actual hearing for adoption on the 13th of July, that way, if I have them now, if we have them now, we can have them amended by the time the final hearing on July 13th.
So I misunderstood.
Member Watson?
So I misunderstood. So the discussion and our suggestions are now to be made now for the 13th.
Correct.
Okay, between now and then, can we simply do something in email as to a position? Because I have concerns, especially about the ethics question and how that's going to be rolled out.
I will leave that up to the chair. The only concern I have with giving me the amendments later is that we'll still have to have an opportunity for the board to discuss adopting it. And so if we don't discuss it today, we would have to add that to the 13th. But I mean, there's nothing that says that we can't do that. But conceivably, we would like the board to all be in agreement with all of the proposed amendments. So if you don't have it today and you want to email it, that's perfectly fine. We would just have to discuss it at the next hearing.
Well, let me try to state the issue with putting the ethics question in the ethics board. So what will happen is you add an additional layer to the board function. When there's a question of ethics in a hearing or any petition, now after the decision is made and there's a question about conflict of interest, now that whole resolution, petition and granting of the variance has to be heard at the ethics board, whether there in fact was a violation of conflict. So you're adding a double layer to the board function. And everything in the board that we do is about timing. So the timing get pushed out. That's going to be a mess.
Yeah, I'll be honest, this was one of the more, so when we discussed this amendment regarding the ethics, that's when Jonathan, my predecessor as general counsel, he was still here. So it's three of us discussing it at that time. And it was, it was a hard push to leave that provision alone and to let it stay where the board kind of police itself and votes on a conflict when they feel that one of the sitting members of the board has a conflict. But it was communicated to us very sternly from someone who's extremely well knowledge and I would consider to be our most premier municipal attorney who works on this for way longer than us, that it just wasn't the proper way to do it.
In the board.
On the board, because the Board of Ethics is supposed to be the final arbiter of a conflict. So I guess it really works both ways. I've seen it both ways to where it can be a really big benefit to do it the way that it's supposed to be. Because if you, if if board members feel that you have a conflict and you are stern that you do not, then it's actually a good thing that the board can't just arbitrarily peg you to have a conflict and pull you out of contention. The bad part of it is what you're stating. We have to wait and we have to get the advisory opinion. And so what we were discussing with the Board of Ethics when they were here was, how can we do this to where it doesn't take forever? How can we do this to where, and he did say that they would be willing to set up a process with us. But in most cases, the the advisory opinions for conflict only come two ways, where you self-report a potential conflict and you request an advisory opinion, or someone reports you to have a conflict.
May I interject right here?
Uh-huh.
So we have a hearing and the question of conflict come up. Someone's living next door to the proposal and they don't want to recuse themselves. And it appears to me as a board member that that's a conflict. What do I do? Do I recommend that it be heard by the Board of Ethics? How do we get to that point?
Yeah, and that's what I discussed with oh, I can't remember his name, forgive me, the gentleman who came and did the training. Now, I will be honest, we did not hash out exactly how it would go because Director Rip Ryan and I, when we met with him, we explained to him, we do have timelines. We can't just sit and wait 6 months for the Board of Ethics to meet on something. And he did say that we could work something out with them, but we had not hashed that part out quite yet. What I would imagine, which is usually the case, since I've been around, um, I think I've been around now about 2 years and some change. Can you believe it? Um, since I've been around, I've only seen it once where the board removed someone for a conflict. And I've seen it a couple times where the board member has removed themselves. And so what I'm hoping, and I see member Watson, what I'm hoping, and as we discussed before, is that it is self-policed very well to where the board having to interject to have you removed and reported, which would be the case. We would have to report the conflict or an opinion, or the board member would have to volunteer to get an advisory opinion regarding the conflict. That would be just the rare exception
Well,
because it has been since I've been here.
well, there were two occasions that issue came up, and the without going into particulars, the positions and were high, and people did not believe, and people did believe. And I still of the opinion that it was a conflict. It would seem to me you would need a process and a resolved plan before you throw out what we have existing and in hopes that what you're planning or proposing will work. I don't see it working in a timely fashion before the board because you're going to have cases that are time sensitive. And if you send it to the Board of Ethics, then you're adding an additional time factor. You know, then it's got to come back to us. And everything that we hear is time sensitive. It's developments waiting. So you're adding a timeline and a complication when we can get a resolution on the board proper and be done with it. So as it's proposed, I would not be in favor of changing that one issue about the ethics
Yeah,
question.
and I think we even looked at the city council rules and they don't even have a provision like that. Where the other members can vote to remove, a member from a vote. Like I said, we did a lot of looking into it. It's
With
something that, with the proposed amendment, we would have, I mean, of course, if the board had a consensus about it, we can go back to trying to talk about it, but to see if there's something because I don't know if the issue is, I understand the issue about needing expediency. So to me, that would be my main issue as well. But the issue about whether or not the Board of Ethics should do it or the board itself, to me, there's two different questions. Is your main issue with about, you know, who should be policing it or how long it would take?
So as it stands, if there's a question of ethics, let's recusal, a vote of the board would decide the question and we're done with it. And the member would recuse themselves because of the majority of the board opinion. Now, if the question comes before the board and there's no resolution, we have to send it to the Board of Ethics. The Board of Ethics will have to hear the question. They will have to decide on the ordinance and the rules and regulations that govern BZ, and they may not be knowledgeable. So they're going to have to get a legal opinion as to whether or not that constitutes a reason for recusal. So you're adding another layer of outhouse timing on time-sensitive proposals and petitions. That's the problem. That's the problem.
And I certainly, I mean, I understand. I understand. The best thing that I can try to accomplish is to have
Let me interrupt you again.
additional conversations.
So we're talking about making the change with no plan. I mean, without
No,
those
there
issues,
definitely
you're
is
going to
a
make the
plan.
change now.
There's a plan, but how long the plan takes, I can't speak to that because I can't speak to the Board of Ethics and how they go about how long they take to get things done. And so that's the X factor here. The X factor is even if he tells me, they can tell me, no, we're going to expedite all Board of Ethics matter requests from BZA. Do we know that that will be the case? I don't know. I would not ever say that I think that it would be seamless. I can just go off of what they said. Now, I mean, and that's unfortunate. I can't make a promise or I can't speak directly to what they would do.
So let me ask you this: on the 13th, when we come to these conclusions, what are we going to do? Vote on it as to yea and nay, whether or not we're going to change or outsource the ethical question? Are we going to be the determining factor on the 13th or no?
Well, I mean, that's an interesting point because if you change it back, the question will be the enforceability of it, which is what my understanding of it is if we get to a point that someone feels that someone could be recused or should be recused. Chair Roberts says Watson cannot vote on this. I do not want him to vote on this. He has, and we're at a standstill, and that they vote to remove you by his motion. If you don't agree with it and you're still strongly contesting it, there is an argument that you can make that they didn't have the authority under the city code to say that you had a conflict, that if you really want to suppress it, that only the code only allows the Board of Ethics to determine a conflict. So that's my only problem with it. My only problem with it is that the law says what it says, and how we do it is one thing, how it can come back. Lawyers think about the liability. We don't think about the day-to-day. We think about what liability that we're not even thinking about right now. And so if the board governed well with it, it would never be an issue.
But on the 13th,
So
are we going
is
to
there,
resolve a question on a vote? Are we voting on it and our vote is going to make it the way we're going to do things, or what's happening on the 13th?
Your vote will make it, your vote will make the rules stay.
The whole thing on the 13th, not just one.
Yeah, you're voting on the final draft of what we do on the 13th, hopefully.
And if we have an issue with one issue and not the rest,
That would extend
and
it.
we feel so strongly about that one issue, we vote it down. Is that what happens? And we'd vote down the whole thing?
Well, if you strike, well, I wouldn't let you strike out the language about the Board of Ethics because that's just the law. We're bound by that regardless. But I guess the key is the language that was removed is what you're having an issue with. The language that was removed that talked about, if that's what you're talking about, Member Watson, right? The language that was removed that talked about the board voting for you to have a conflict?
I'm going to relinquish.
Because the Board of Ethics, the board being bound by the Board of Ethics is the law, whether it's in there or not. So you all are definitely bound by the Board of Ethics, no matter what.
I believe the director wants to hear from more members, so I'm going to relinquish.
yeah, I'm gonna, so could there be a hybrid? Okay, so obviously if, if I call to recuse somebody or another board member does, and we vote on it and that board member agrees, then then it's a mute issue at that point, right? So could we still have that procedure available to us? And then if the board member disagrees, then it triggers a referral to the Board of Ethics?
Well, I would like to think that if the board member agrees, it stops right there because if
Right.
the board member agrees, which is a lot of times even begrudgingly the case, that they should recuse themselves, we don't have to do any of this.
Right. But then if they disagree, then maybe we could trigger it to the Board of Ethics?
Well, that's the way I thought that this would go anyway. So this would go in a way
Would that
to
be
where
acceptable?
you're having a
Member Watson?
discussion. And if you recall in the hearing last time, what I said was, if going through the course of the discussion, we feel that there's a conflict. If we feel that there's a conflict, the general hope would be that the board member would understand and recognize that they had a conflict and voluntarily recuse themselves. But if that board member did not, then yes, I would hope that the board would then do a vote to refer it to, and that's the thing. That was part of the thing that I had to be educated on how things get resolved by the Board of Ethics. And he made it clear. It could either be reporting or a request for an advisory opinion. So more than likely, I would like the route of an advisory opinion. I would not like this board to get in the habit of reporting someone for a conflict. That's not a very board member friendly thing to do to each other. I would prefer that we go the route of requesting the advisory opinion, but that would have to come from the board member themselves as opposed to us reporting them. So it's all about how, but those are the only two ways that they said that they come in. I mean, I recognize that this is, it took up all the discussion last time, and it's funny because it doesn't come up too often. So I hope that this doesn't start to come up a lot, but it doesn't come up too often. But I do understand it. One of the other things that I can do is try to find out and think about just having a clear, like spell it out, like really spell out the process with the commitment of how it could go to give you all some form of a hybrid that you're very comfortable with by the 13th. That gives you some type of handle on it in the moment before you decide to make it take a couple months or a month or two to get done. Is that what I'm trying? I just what I'm hearing, that you want some form of um the first shot at trying to resolve it before it goes
Yeah.
there.
We
Because I
might
don't
be able to try and resolve it ourselves, and if we can't, then kick it to the Board of Ethics, I think is where we're.
that resolution though
Remember Watson?
couldn't
Kind of where we're-
include well, I guess the key here is I don't mind that, but I wouldn't want that resolution to be the board saying, you know, you have a conflict. You have a conflict. If the board is having a discussion, nothing can stop you from having a robust discussion and placing your concerns on the record about a potential conflict, getting the board trying to come up to a consensus about a potential conflict. But if you cannot get to it, if you cannot agree, then, you know, no one said that you can't discuss it. No one said that you couldn't talk about it. This is just that the actual vote, you have a conflict.
And the only problem, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would note that the first question that's asked of the member is, do you feel you can be, is it impartial? That's the first question. And then if the board member says yes or no, that triggers the discussion. I don't necessarily feel, Board Member Watson, that just because someone lives next door to something, that is necessarily a conflict. It could be a conflict, but if that member states that they can do their duty impartially, that's the discussion, not that he lives next door to the property.
And that in a perfect world, that would be the case. However, myself, let's use myself as an example real quickly. I live next door to a park. You're talking about redoing the whole park right next door to me, right? Tearing down the existing, bringing in a ton of dirt and building up, blocking the view of the river and all that kind of stuff. And it comes before the board for a variance to do that. And I'm sitting here on the board next door to all this traffic and all this mess going on. And I tell you, first of all, I rant and rave about the problem and the loss of view of Canada. I do that for 10 minutes. And then and then some member says, well, I think you ought to recuse yourself, Member Watson. And then I turn around and say, no, I can render an opinion with no preconceived notion. When I've ranted and raved for 10 minutes about how bad it is and how I'm opposed to it and how this particular thing came about. And I've done that. And then I say that I should not have to be recused. That is a problem. And that's where.
And that is almost exactly something that I witnessed one time here with the board. But that member did recuse themselves the one time that I saw it.
Because we forced the question. That's the only reason.
But it was a forced question, but it still ultimately was a voluntary recusal. I do remember that one. It sounds very close to one that I heard, and it still was a voluntary recusal. So, like I said, nothing is taking away the discussion. Nothing is taking away the robust discussion. I just think that if we get to the point where we, you know, we have to make the decision, and I get it. It's like, let's vote. Let's vote to remove you. I would like to think that no member would hold on and delay something for months potentially for their own self-interest when the majority of their colleagues are of the opinion that there's a conflict, but they are just holding on to it. I mean, I would just think that that would be so rare and so unique, that I just hope that I haven't seen it happen since I've been here. I've seen the discussions happen though. So that's what I'm saying. I would never give an opinion that I don't feel strongly about. So I don't feel strongly to say that it won't take too long. I don't feel strongly to say, the Board of Ethics won't take maybe, I don't know. We can try to talk about that some more with them, but I do feel strongly that this board can have a strong discussion without making the final decision and letting the person make the decision and do the right thing. And that should just be the exception. So I did not say that you guys could not discuss it. You can absolutely discuss it.
And I would just also add that in the handbook and in the rules and procedure, they speak to the appearance of impropriety. So that also is a factual basis. I just want to bring that to the attention when we discuss these things. Even
the appearance of
the
impropriety.
appearance is just as it should be treated just as much as the fact. And I'll leave it there.
That is correct. And that is part of the challenge with policing ethical issues. Trying to tell somebody what's in their heart and mind because no one can see it. So it's a big challenge. And I will say when something goes to the Board of Ethics, it's going to get probably a lot more technical, which is probably why it takes longer. Now we're looking at documentation, we're pulling, and so that is just not something that we would want to do. And there are a lot of things I can say. There are a lot of things that people say, yes, this is the law and procedure. We just don't want to do that. That should be the absolute last resort. That's how I want the board to look at it. I want the board to look at it as it's the absolute last resort.
I have another question about standing. Are we going to be dealing with anything? Am I recognized by the chair?
Yes.
Standing as it stands, you know the problem we have with community appeals and standing.
Very much so.
When the ordinance gives the community in their rules for bringing a petition, they give them the right to bring the petition as a community.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody relies on, I forget the case name that says.
Sagatuck Dunes.
Say again?
Sagatuck Dunes.
Sagatuck, yeah. And that ruling, that precedent takes it right out of their hands. Is there, when we hear the ordinance and all that kind of stuff, are we going to be able to say anything about that standing position or no?
Well, yeah, now, the only way that the rules have changed regarding the hearing process is that we incorporated how we're doing it for community appeals. But nothing is changing the law. That is the Supreme Court law. It is not fun to it is not fun to administer. But it's the law of the Supreme Court. And so it would be nice if they would promulgate it. We would like to put it in our code actually, because it's not even in our code right now. There haven't been too many cases ruled under it, just a handful of cases. But no, this does not change that. All these rules do related to community appeals is make it clear how we're doing it now because we do have more legal representation for the appeals cases. We kind of wrote that in there that they have an opportunity to present and respond. Both sides have an opportunity to present a written statement, respond to the written statement. The city is often represented by an attorney as opposed to our regular hearings. You don't see an attorney here for the city, but for the appeals, we do have them. So that's the only thing that we changed in the rules is that. And the rebuttals and all that were already in the rules.
Member Bowman?
Yeah, I had, and this is something that popped in my head during the whole appeals thing, and we've had some cases where people came back and continued the discussion. And it occurred to me, and I think the short answer at the time was no, just one person can do this. But I'm wondering if there's a legal basis for that. And specifically what I'm addressing is, let's say there's some institution that one person says that person has a special grievance and has standing and makes the appeal against that party, or actually they're appealing BC's decision regarding that particular presence in their neighborhood. And then somebody later, after that appeal, let's say that appeal fails or that person doesn't have standing and so forth, there's another hearing because another person not connected to the first one has a different special grievance and claims standing, and perhaps does, perhaps doesn't, and there's a hearing, and but the appeal still doesn't overturn BC. Is there any limit to the number of independent community appeals regarding a single decision by BC?
That's an interesting question. I
So
don't
the-
think we,
if I
that's
can-
not subject to these rules. I will say that. But I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, were you trying to say something?
Yeah, so I think there's two things, to Mr. Bowman's point. The first is that the person making the appeal would have had to have participated in the hearing.
True.
And then secondly, there's a time limit. I don't know how many days, but there's a time, 14 days where they have to appeal. So if it's if there's 5 people that are in the room and they all 5 feel that they have a special circumstance, they certainly could all 5 apply, for within the 14 days. But if it's after the 14 days, then they can.
So I guess, yeah, that would be a limit. People couldn't wait to see how one thing turned out, so it'd obviously be much longer than.
Correct.
But hypothetically, if within the 14 days, all these people knowing the process ahead of time decided they each had a separate. I'm picturing, for instance, I give a literal scenario. Let's say you have a cannabis place open, and there's like dozens of people who don't want it there, and they all showed up at the hearing one at a time speaking against it. So now they understand the process, and they all choose to make independent community appeals, each individually, and they do it within 14 days. Then we could have multiple hearings in that case.
It could, and that's why I think that as a board, we need to tighten up our opinions on standing for these type of cases, because we have a tendency, in my opinion, to grant standing where standing isn't necessarily, hasn't necessarily in my mind been achieved. And then that is what will open the floodgates to multiple people applying, in my opinion.
Yeah, on the 13th, or when we do our board training, I'll be mentioning a case that we recently did not win. And the judge mentioned standing. And so it's interesting, but it turned on the board granting standing when the person didn't have standing. So it's if each individual person has standing and they all file appeal that meets the criteria, then I guess we could have multiple ones. But if they all have the same damages, then it's kind of adding to the standard of it can't be a generalized concern. So it's a very tricky thing to try to go about that route. They would have to have a unique damages because that's what it's supposed to be to have standing. It's supposed to be unique. So if 4 people file the same appeal, you're probably adding to the narrative that it's a generalized concern.
As the standing for a community organization, I think the community organization, once they challenge the lack of standing for the community organization, I think they should challenge it, and they probably will be successful, because as an organization, the ordinance or the rule gives everyone the right to come to agree as an aggrieved person. But then the Saugatuck case takes it away on the other hand. So if the community makes the argument that it is a sole organization, a sole person, like a corporation, like a partnership, everybody's entitled to bring a case as an organization, except for the community, because they say everyone must bring in, everyone aggrieved must have suffered something individually and not like their neighbors. Well, the argument could be made that the community organization as a single entity has suffered because of its position in the community. And I think perhaps they would be
That's legally,
successful on that.
yeah, that's legally accurate. The law says that it can be a person, an organization. It doesn't have to only be a person. To the three-prong test, it could be an organization. It doesn't have to only be a person. It could be a partnership, it could be a joint venture. But the part that's usually not the part that gets us stuck. The part that usually gets us stuck is the damages. So, yeah, it's the damages. We have had before an organization get standing. We did that with one. I think that was Northtown. Cool. Um, yeah, but it's just a matter of how they file it. It's how it was Northtown. It's Northtown. It's a matter of how they
Miss
file it.
Bosch's organization.
Huh?
Miss Bosch's organization.
Yeah, she filed it under Northtown.
Right.
And I mean, huh? Well, we had to reel her in because, well, we can talk about that later. We had to reel that in because when she filed it as an organization, but she made a claim of a particular person who wasn't here.
Right.
So we had to go find that person.
Exactly. And
So-
and every other community organization coming forward now has to do the
Yes,
same.
and since we're bringing this up, and I will know this has nothing to do with the rules, but that community organization wasn't within the range that we would have wanted it to be in to have the standing to be close proximity. So that's why she had to go find a person. But if that community organization was right there, it probably would have had a better bite. So that was the key with that one. But there's nothing that says that you can't be a community organization. You just have to meet all of the criteria, though. You have to meet all the criteria.
Member Bowman?
Yeah, I believe, wasn't there like a special services? I'm not sure if it was like a combination of food bank or some other social service being provided by Perfecting Church, I believe. Wasn't that actual case where we did that organization
Yeah, that was-
itself was recognized as having standing because they were like directly across
Yes.
the street from this place that was opening that got approved?
Yeah, I
by
forgot
the
about
state?
perfecting. That's what, yeah. Yeah, it could be an organization. It can absolutely be a company, organization, business, but again, it has to meet all three of the prompts. So, and usually it's the damages. It's usually the damages.
Right. Any other questions or comments on the on the rules as they've been presented? I've got a couple of things. And this is just general discussion, not necessarily to you, Attorney Savage, but as I listened to the recording, I heard several things that recordings aren't available, that there's not a computer in the BZA office anymore to look up cases, that FOIA requests aren't being responded to, and that transcripts are too expensive. I don't know how I know those aren't part of our rules, right? But definitely all those were brought up by multiple people during public comment. Now I think the recordings part has been solved because Director Ibran's been putting those on YouTube.
That's correct.
So I think that's been solved, and I'm not sure that the BZA department is responsible solely for the FOIA stuff, right?
Yeah, that goes through the law department.
Right. So I don't think that we can address that. And the price of transcripts, I'm sure is approved by city council.
Yeah, that goes through a bidding process. So those are things that we don't have control over them. We do have input into it, but it's a procurement process that's bid out. You go through the law department for FOIAs, and we do have the BZA meetings on Zoom. I will state, Mr. Chairman, that generally, unless something is in court, it's very easy to request something from the BZA. It's only when something goes to court and I'm told by the attorneys that they have to FOIA things. But generally, I make it pretty easy for people to obtain information. That's why we have the board book. You know, I'll give somebody the board book. You know, so that's another thing that I've done to simplify things, to make it easier for people to access stuff. That board book is something that I can put in people's hands or email it to them.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you. All right, any other member Watson?
Last question on this transcripts. They're supposed to be verbatim. They're not.
The transcript from this court reporter, the ones that are ordered for the purposes of, those are the ones where there's the complaints about the cost. So those are verbatim. That's why we have the court reporter here every week. And if you want a transcript in that regard, you have to fill out the request and have it transcribed as a per page fee. Just wanting a copy of our Zoom recording, there's no, you can listen to the whole thing and hear it. And as we all know, the AI transcript that comes up while we're talking is not worth much at all. So, that's not verbatim either. But that is something that Director Rebron provides copies of the Zoom recording when people request it. And now I hear it's now on YouTube. And, those things are free and available. But if the only time that a person would want a verbatim transcript is if they're going to court.
Any other comments or discussion on the rules and procedures as presented?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to be clear in what you all's, after the community input, we hear from the community. I think I indicated that you all should either have some discussion around moving the whole thing forward to July 13th. If not, what recommendations do you have for Attorney Savage? I think she indicated that she will expand on the ethics, but I agree that is something that we cannot just take out because it's consistent with the law, but we can tweak it. I just want to make sure that after we hear from the community that we understand what our next step is. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you.
And if July 13th ends up being an extended discussion, we would then have to notice again for the, am I correct? Well, we have to notice again if we go to it.
If you
Okay, we just
to the
keep it a
next date,
continued discussion.
then we don't have to do start over with the public notice. You would just give it the same notice you would give for a regular meeting. But if we somehow not notice it, or you close the hearing, then yeah, we start over.
Okay, so we want to be careful that we don't start over. It's we continue the process till we get to a final vote.
Okay. Member Bowman?
So if I was to move amendments to the proposed draft, would I be doing that after the community comments today? Okay.
Correct.
Just checking on when that will be. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion before we go into public comment? And then we'll have obviously a discussion afterward as well. Okay. Thank you, Attorney Savage. All right, we're going to open up public comment specific to the rules and regulations or rules and procedures. Pardon me? 2 minutes. Yeah. So if you're here in the auditorium and you want to make public comment specific to the rules and procedures of the BZA, please come down to the podium. Crickets, seeing nobody. We'll move to virtual participants. If you're online and you want to make a public comment specific to the rules and procedures of the BZA, please raise your hand. Rules and procedures for the BZA, public comment, please raise your hand. Do we have anybody, Director?
Mr. Chairman, we have 3 hands. The first hand is Tyson Gersh.
Tyson Gersh, if you could please unmute yourself. I need your name and address. Inspector Purefoy will swear you in.
My name is Tyson Gersh. My address is 252 Smith Street, Detroit, Michigan, 48202.
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess we don't have to
Yeah,
swear
you
you
can
into
just
the.
start. You can go ahead. You got 2 minutes.
Okay.
Uh,
Mr. Gersh, you have 2 minutes, sir.
Okay, thanks. So I have a bunch of comments, some of which I've emailed in. I don't think that the current proposed rules can be adopted legally for a number of reasons. Obviously, proposed rule 50-1702B imposes a transcript fee, which this board has no authorization to adopt. It's a substantive change and a fee change that are unauthorized through the charter. That has to happen through council, and council has not authorized the court reporter fee or any fee above 60 cents a page. Let's see, the definition of the record is degraded under the proposed rules and directly conflicts with our zoning ordinance's definition of the record, 50-2-66. I also think, there's a difference between, somebody in Hong Kong who just randomly showed up to the meeting who wants to chime in for whatever reason and a would-be aggrieved party. And a failure of both the current rules and the proposed rules is that it fails to acknowledge this distinction. An aggrieved party is statutorily empowered to provide testimony at a hearing and is required under Saugatuck to speak to their protected interests and also has to provide evidence of damages on the record. And under one of the rules is the chairperson can just limit their opportunity to participate to 60 seconds. That in itself is a due process substantive change that this board is not authorized to adopt, does not have the power to do so, that would only be allowable through ordinance under council. And just sort of on its face is problematic. Like, you guys should recognize the issue there. There's also an issue where the chairperson can.
Time.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Gersh. Anybody else, Director Brown?
Resident.
Resident, if you could please unmute yourself and you'll have 2 minutes for public comment. Resident? Resident, if you could please unmute yourself and you'll have 2 minutes. Resident?
Hello?
All right, we can hear you. Go ahead, you have 2 minutes, ma'am.
I am unmuted.
Okay,
You
go
can
ahead.
hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, first of all, you should have made it like abundantly clear on your website that there are some proposed rule changes out there, because you can barely even find the proposed rules. This whole thing about ethical that, you board members only have to reveal whether you've spoken with the petitioner after the notices go out is completely unacceptable. We should know about all communications with the petitioner. And this whole thing about charging us for transcripts is just completely outrageous. And for the new members, I think you're being very misguided by the law department, which they don't even uphold the charter, which is what they're supposed to do. And they perversely interpret the charter to fit what they want, right? But the BZA is already required to have transcript whether somebody appeals or not. But you're misholding information from people that should be available, and so you really can't even do this rule. It's like it's like a conspiracy to violate our civil rights. Those pesky residents can't speak up, and you're required to have the transcripts whether anybody appeals or not. And I heard Mr. Ribbrand say, oh, anybody can go watch these Zoom hearings and get transcripts. But oh, no. You won't let me see it if it's one of my cases. So really, folks, if you have an ounce of integrity, you're supposed to be supposedly, representing people, being unbiased. I bet you have one-off meetings with probably HRD, the land bank, and other people like that. We should know about that too. Because like right now I have zero faith in the city of Detroit government, because the way we were so atrociously treated. You guys had a and
All right. Thank you.
The next one is Charlotte.
Charlotte, if you could please unmute yourself, Charlotte. And you'll have 2 minutes.
Hello, Cheryl McRae, District 5 resident. I've commented on this issue before and have submitted those to Director Rebron. I'm going to focus on the transcript issue, though there's other issues like the removal of people, which are very concerning, but the transcript issue is what I know best. I want to just sort of highlight that the Detroit City Ordinance right now is consistent with the BZA rules of procedure, and that this change will bring it out of consistency with City Code Section 50-2-66, requirement to create a verbatim transcript in every single case, not just in the ones that are being appealed. I'm going to submit a new comment with a bunch of case law outlined, because I think that that'll make it a little bit easier to see how the Wayne County Circuit Court has treated this issue and what the Detroit Law Department has been aware of when regarding these rules and their application to transcripts. And also, I'm going to submit a copy of Schidewald versus Brule, Michigan Court of Appeals, 26-570 Northwestern, 2nd 788-1997, which Director Rebron cited at a city council meeting indicating, I'm reading from the Michigan Court Rules of Appeals, has held that there is no requirement for a verbatim transcript in order for the record to be sufficient for judicial review. He's correct. There is no state level or court rules level requirement for it. It's just the Detroit local rules and how they combine with the state level rules. But in the township that this case addressed, the local rules didn't have this elevated verbatim transcript requirement. Oh, and I wanted to thank the board for finally putting the Zoom hearings online.
Well, you're welcome. Anybody else, Director Rebron?
Vanessa Peak.
Vanessa Peak, you could please unmute yourself. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board. Vanessa Peak.
Yes, I wanted to know, first of all, before I begin, can I yield my time to Tyson Gerson?
He's already spoken.
Well, I want to say that I share the sentiments of both Tyson and Charlotte in terms of what has been said. And so I don't necessarily want to repeat what they said, but I also want to make comment that Professor Rebecca Robichaud has actually sent in information as well that I think is important that the board review. Just wanting to say that everything that's already been said by the others who've already spoken, I think they've made it clear in terms of what is felt by the community in regards to these proposals. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Peak. Anybody else?
Mr. Chairman, that was the last hand.
Okay, we'll close out public comment on our rules and procedures. And we'll open back up some comments or a discussion from the board members. And then we have to make a decision on whether we're going to move this forward to July 13th or not. Member Bowman.
Yeah, hi. I had proposed a couple amendments and I actually sent an email to that effect. I don't know how many people actually were able to see it. And what I propose is, and I'm actually going to go right into this, there was the particular section here. We got a draft of the Part 1, authority and purpose, and Part 2, office and meetings. And I want to explain, this is, these are, I guess this will be a motion to amend two different ones. So the first one, and may I speak to that motion? In addition to what the amendment would be. Okay, so the proposed amendment.
Mr. Bowman, could you please let the attorney know what are you speaking of?
I'm looking at, it's a separate paper we were given.
You should be looking only at what I gave you this morning.
Yeah.
What I gave you this morning is
draft page 1. There's a 4-page draft given to us. Okay, is it clear now or? Okay. Yeah, so on that document, in part B, so it start and the actually the whole section B, I just amended one part of it. The whole section B reads the BZA is a 9-member body established pursuant to the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act, MCL 125.601 et sec. And then in parentheses, the Zoning Enabling Act in quotes, and then the 2012 City Charter in quotes, charter, Chapter 50, 2019 City, Detroit City Code Zoning Ordinance in quotes again. The language I inserted would change that part in the parentheses from the Zoning Enabling Act in parentheses to read instead referred to as the Zoning Board of Appeals in the Zoning Enabling Act. The intent here and why I thought it was important to include a reference to the phrase Zoning Board of Appeals is that is what the type of body we have is referred to as an MCL 125.601. And the reason that I see the need for that specific wording thrown in there is because there has been in the past confusion over the naming in reference, for instance, to the zoning commission as opposed to the Board of Zoning Appeals. The zoning commission and the zoning board of the zoning board of appeals, as referred to in Michigan law, are two different entities, just as here in Detroit, the Board of Zoning Appeals and the Planning Commission are two different entities, and the Planning Commission being Detroit's version of the Zoning Commission, and the BZA that we have here being Detroit's version of the Zoning Board of Appeals. And that confusion actually did come up in a matter affecting me, that there had been a case where the Legislative Policy Division was actually confused about the eligibility for office description for members of this body as opposed to the other body. That they got the phrases mixed up. And so by specifying which of the Michigan entities we are, that would help to allay future confusion.
Attorney Savage.
Sorry. Attorneys need a snack too. I don't think that that's a bad amendment, actually. At first I didn't know where you were going with it, but that is actually something that has happened a couple of times. So I don't see any problem with I'll find a way to put it. I just put it in here, but just for the general knowledge of any board members who may go to the Zoning and Enabling Act to know the difference between it. And we're called the Zoning Board of Appeals in the Enabling Act. We call ourselves the BZA here. So most of the state law that you'll see, if you ever do a general search for BZA, you're not going to get too many hits, because it's most I think we're probably the only one that we're BZA as opposed to ZBA. So that's duly noted. If no one else has a problem with that, I can find a way to note that in here.
Sounds good. What's your other amendment, Member Bowman?
Thank you. So that basically there's no need for further vote or discussion on that.
We'll do it all if it's okay with you.
Okay. The second matter involves the process of voting. And I have language here that I can also speak to as well. And this would be end up amending Part 4E by substitution, because there's so much to change. I just figured I'd just call it a substitution. And so initially what we have here is Part E reads, if no nominee receives a majority vote after the board's first vote, a second vote shall be conducted immediately, but limited to the two candidates who receive the highest number of votes on the first vote. If the second vote also results in no majority, The current board officers shall remain in the respective positions until a special election can be held. The board may at that point vote to hold a special election at a subsequent meeting. And what I had the amendment I propose is to substitute instead of that. If no nominee receives a majority vote after the board's first vote, a second vote shall be conducted immediately, but without the nominee, and I have it in S in case there's a tie at the bottom, who received the least support in the first vote. If the second vote also results in no majority, a third vote shall be held without the nominee or nominees who received the least support on the second vote. Subsequent runoff votes will be held in a similar manner until one nominee gets a majority. If no majority is obtained after all runoff votes, the board member shall hold a special election at the subsequent meeting in which none of the losing nominees may run. Now, my rationale is that the problem with the top two approach is it could actually lead to the scenario brought up for a second vote in which no one gets a majority, because it's entirely possible that the top two could, in combination, still only be a minority of those voted for and may in fact be unacceptable to the remaining voters. And instead, if you had multiple candidates already up there or nominees up there, this would then provide a chance for a majority to be built from those who can see that the least popular nominee would not make it.
Attorney Savage, I hope you weren't snacking on that.
I was trying to I was following it until okay, so and you sent all that language to me, Board Member Bowman?
Yes, I did. It was included an email that I sent, I believe, to all of the board members, unless I missed someone new by accident. And yourself and Director Ribron.
The part that I'm everybody else might have caught it, but the part that I didn't quite catch, you were saying the person who received what did you say about the ones who received the least amount of votes?
Would be dropped from the subsequent balloting until it's just basically it's a runoff based upon dropping the person at the bottom and then voting again. And that way, people who previously voted for the least popular choice or choices in the event you had a couple people at the bottom sharing the same
Okay, so
amount.
this says if no nominee receives the majority vote, a second vote shall be conducted immediately, but limited to the two candidates who receive the highest number of votes. So that would make it be the highest two.
Yeah, it was the original.
So, but then you're saying if they vote again, well, I'm trying to figure out what is the least number of votes come in? Because we already dropped off the least right here. We dropped off we only kept the two highest.
Okay, let me look at my wording in case I didn't write what I thought I did.
So if we look at the two highest and then the two highest vote getters goes to a second vote, if neither of the two highest receive
Yeah, that was what you're reading to me was the original language, not what I proposed as an amendment.
Right. What I'm saying, if in the second vote, if neither one of the two highest receives a majority, which is 5 votes, then we leave the officers alone and then we can have a special election. So you're saying you don't like that concept of having
Right, because top two vote getters don't necessarily, even in combination, might not represent the majority of the board members' desires.
But if we have the top two vote getters, it says if the second vote results in no majority vote, meaning, well, now we have the top two highest vote getters. If neither one of those receive 5, then we have to have another election.
Right,
So
and
that's the
my
majority.
approach would mean you probably would never need that special election, but okay, granted, it's still possible. So that's why I threw that in there. If for instance, you get all the way to the end and you still don't have anybody, okay, well, then maybe you need to do it. But in other words, basically that effectively by not choosing anyone, they're voting NODA on the original nominees. But otherwise, I find that to be an exceptionally unlikely condition. Whereas the condition of the top two voters, the top two vote getters not having majority support seems a very likely possibility, as opposed to if you just drop the lowest one and have a runoff vote and so on, you're almost always going to get a majority support for somebody of those nominees.
Board members, in the 13 years I've been here, we've never had more than two people running for chair and vice chair, even nominated. So I'm suggesting that we don't complicate it because it has not been complicated. I
don't think
if 3 or 4 people were running, I could see that, but we have never had any more than two, and most of the time nobody nominates. So I'm just suggesting that you make sure that we're not creating something that doesn't need to be corrected. I don't see the issue with how we're doing it currently, based on past history. That's just my opinion of it. These are your rules, Mr. Bowman.
Well, at this point, I already said what I was going to say, so I think this is a matter for others to pick up if they want to.
Yeah, the beauty about the 2110 rules is that you all can change them whenever you see fit. These are not the rules that are subject to public notice and all of the strict regimen that we have to have for rules. So, certainly you guys can discuss it, but we can also easily amend it as well if we get to that type of complication. But I guess it's just a matter of interpretation because I feel like if you had 4 people wanting to be president and you dropped off the lowest vote getter, I thought that maybe having 3 would reduce the likelihood that either one would get 5. I think you increase the likelihood that one of the 2 will get 5 votes if you only have the top 2. I feel like if you have 3 people in there,
it could be a three-way split.
You're going to be having the vote split 3 ways
3, 6, 9.
because the majority vote is 5 for this board. You need to have 5 votes to pass anything, most things. So, I don't know. I mean, these are you all's rules. You guys can handle the elections the way you see fit, but I do think that it's solid. Now, if you want to write in here to go a 3rd round, we can do that. But I think that this approach is pretty effective. I don't know, Mr. Chair. It's up to you guys.
Right. I mean, as I read it, it does seem to be, pretty simple. If you start off with 5 and nobody gets a majority of vote, you drop down to the 2 highest vote getters. Then you're voting on 2 people instead of 5 people or whatever.
If I may, the issue is that it's possible you could have 2 people be the highest vote getters, but still be unacceptable to the majority.
How you would get.
So if we vote,
I guess that's true if you had one person absent. So we've got 8 board members that you could wind up with a tie for the 2.
yeah, if we have 2 board members get 4 votes each, and they're the 2 highest, and then we do another election, then presumably that number 9 who would be here would pick a side and would take that number 4 over, so the hope would be that the person that who did drop off, I mean, like, this doesn't really happen, I'm told, but the person who did drop off, their votes would then go to tip the other person over, somebody else over. So I don't know. There's a whole lot of different ways to speculate this, but the key is you need 5 votes. You just need 5 votes. So if there's a tie and then there's a tie again, then the way this says is, or even if it's not a tie, one has 4 and one has 3, one has, nobody has 5 votes. Then this says you then come back later and do another election at another meeting, presumably to give yourself time to go lobby somebody to vote for you.
So,
Or make sure that we have
So-
9 people here, because
so we could-
anybody missing causes an issue.
so would it make sense then if we said that after that second vote, that the special elections held where there's an odd number of members present? So that way there can't be a tie?
But generally, board members, I probably would not schedule it unless we had all board members here, just to eliminate that conflict. Which is another reason why I handed the memo out today. The importance of everyone being here is for situations like that, particularly with votes. But if we know that we're going to be doing this in January at the first meeting, I'm anticipating that everyone will be here for the first meeting. That I just, again, historically, this has not been an issue.
Right.
So I think that's something that, I think this is one, the first one, Attorney Savage, was okay. I think this one requires a vote, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. What if we added to the beginning of it at a meeting with all 9 board members present?
It's the first meeting of the year. We had been doing it in December at the last meeting, but we'll be doing it. Oh, at the beginning, yes, at the beginning of the meeting, right. It's at the beginning so that we start with a new chairman and vice chair at the beginning of the meeting in January.
So, but if item E, if we add it to and that's what I meant by the beginning, I'm sorry, I should have been more specific. If we add it to the beginning of that section, at a meeting with all board members present, comma,
Or the first meeting of the year, which is usually the last meeting, the last Monday in January.
would that work for you, Member Bowman?
It would be addressing a different matter. I consider it a different amendment, so I don't know if that, I don't particularly have a problem with that. It's just something different. I suppose we could have one amendment and then another amendment, because the two don't overlap or conflict with each other. They just are different, that's all.
I'm not sure.
In other words, I guess it's an amendment to an amendment.
I'm not sure if having all 9 members present will absolutely keep that from happening, because nothing says that all 9 members will always vote. So you can have all 9 members here and still have one member abstain or have one member go to the bathroom or something and still have a 4-4 split. So I don't know.
I think that's something we deal with at that moment. Again, I think we're making this deeper than it needs to be. If we get to that point, number one, you have the flexibility to change the rules. Attorney Savage just indicated that. If a situation comes up, we do the vote and then we change the rules to address that situation. I don't want us changing the rules every year simply because we're trying to manipulate the outcome. Consistency is the key. And I think that taking the approach that we have is reasonable. If you want to add that amendment, Board Member Bowman, again, it's your rules. I think for the sake of discussing it and continuing to discuss it, that you all vote on that particular issue, since many are not chiming in on it.
Well, then we probably need to go backwards and vote on the first.
I think the first one, Attorney Savage indicated that she could make, she would look at the ethics rules and make some recommended changes that you all can look at, with the understanding that the ethics rules are not coming out of the rules and procedures. There could be some adjustment, but it's not going to be removed. Am I correct?
Right.
That's correct.
Okay.
I was gonna look to see if there's a way that I can, because right now it's silent as to what the board can do or could do. And so I was gonna try to find something to place in there to say, you know, after discussion or but there's nothing that says that you can't do that anyway. But maybe there is some language to put in there that talks about a board discussion or even a board vote. The board doesn't have to vote on the conflict. The board can vote that this matter can't proceed because there's a potential conflict, and that's still a board taking an action. I can try to find something like that.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think that one, we're tweaking. The second one on Mr. Bowman's motion, the board should take action.
Well, the first, his first one also about the enabling act. So
Part 1B. So we need to vote first on Part 1B, which Mr. Bowman has spoken language which Attorney Savage thinks that she can massage into this section 1B. So we need a motion to amend section 1B of our 2-110.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, next we need to then move to amend section 2-110. Part 4, item E, which deals with our deals with the voting. I need a motion to amend that.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay?
Nay.
How many, let's do a roll call on that one. Board Member Sherman?
Nay.
Board Member Bowman?
Yes.
Board Member Watson?
Nay.
Board Member Campbell?
Nay.
Board Member, is that Carr? No, Fisher.
Johnson?
Johnson, I'm sorry. Board Member Johnson?
Yes.
And did I skip somebody before I go to the chair?
Parker.
Board Member Parker?
Yay.
Chairperson Roberts?
Nay.
Get the count. It's tied, and it's 4-4. You got 8 people. 4-4.
We got 7.
It's only 7.
We got 7.
7?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's
But
4-3.
5.
4-3. No, it did not pass, Mr. Chairman.
This was a good lesson on how to do the votes with 5 majority votes. So we have a majority, but we don't have 5.
Oh, right. We don't have, so it fails? It fails, right. So that one failed, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Director Brown. Any more discussion on the rules?
Just remember, Mr. Bowman, that you can revisit this if in an election you see that your issue rises, you can bring that back up.
Okay, thank you.
So that completes, section 2-110. Any more discussion on, chapter 50, the rules and procedures? If not, then I'll ask for a motion to, move the, chapter, oh, I'm sorry, Member Bowman.
Yeah, it was really an inquiry, a request for information. I couldn't find the part where, let me just ask, do we currently in this document, because I was looking through it, have any, a part where it does specify a price on transcripts? Because that came up in.
That's on the fee schedule, which will be attached to the final document once it's approved.
But we don't set the fees.
The city council sets the fees.
Okay, so that actually wasn't in dispute, then that's what the person say. And then my second question, if I may, I had one other.
Yes, go ahead.
Was about, also just came up in comments and I found it, about the time. Let me find that again. And what was the legal issue again with that? Is there regarding the time limits? Is that in the Open Meetings Act? But I thought it was left it at the discretion of the body.
I'm not understanding.
What section, Member Bowman?
And now I'm trying to find the right clause. It was regarding, oh, here we go. It's, okay, it would be here. Section D of 50.1301. The board may establish reasonable time, place, manner restrictions for public comments, audience participation during board meetings, hearings, provided that such restrictions shall be stated at the opening, and so on. But it gets down to this part where, let's see, the time be limited, shall comment time to be limited to less than 1 minute per speaker. Oh, and provided further that in no instance. So all it does is set a minimum time. Was there any issue between that and any other law that you know?
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chair, time, place, manner restrictions are more of a product of the Open Meetings Act. So it basically says that any public body can impose reasonable time, place, manner restrictions. Of course, you can't restrict, we very well that people can have general, very broad comments and public comments, but you can restrict how long they speak, where they speak, how they speak, what tools we use, whether they stand over here, whether they stand back there. So that's time, place, manner restrictions. And that's Open Meetings Act driven.
Okay, thank you.
Or even one more thing, some jurisdictions, not really the city of Detroit, you have to actually put I used to work for a city, you had to put your public comment in prior to even coming to the mic.
Yeah.
So they knew what you were going to comment on. You had to come fill out a card. You cannot speak unless you filled out a card. That was when I worked for Pontiac. So different jurisdictions have, and Detroit, this is my third city, we definitely have the most liberal public comment of other cities.
Yeah, I was trained in Port Huron, and you could not attend unless you submitted in advance.
Yeah.
So I agree, we are pretty liberal.
Very
and,
liberal.
and the chairs in the past have been, we generally go beyond 1 minute. And if it's the petitioner speaking to a case or someone who's affected by it, they get a little bit more time. So I think we're pretty open with our ability to allow people to speak.
Yeah.
Any other comments? If not, I entertain a motion to move the chapter 50 rules and procedures forward to July 13th, 2026.
We'll see. 90.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
So the BZA rules have been voted on and moved to July 13th with two potential amendments. With two potential amendments, once that draft has been presented, you obviously will get it before the 13th. The community, you will also have access to that before the 13th. That is it on the rules, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
Thank you for your diligence in this. This has been a long time coming. We've been working on this a while, so I appreciate you and continuing to work with us.
Thank you. All right, general public comment. If you're in the auditorium today and you want to make general public comment, please come down to the podium. Seeing nobody, we'll switch to virtual. Virtual public comments. If you'd like to make a public comment, please raise your hand. General public comment, please raise your hand. See anybody, Director Brown?
Yep. Tyson Gersh.
Tyson Gersh. If you could please unmute yourself and you'll have 2 minutes for public comment. Tyson Gersh.
Hey, thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Great, thank you. Not to be nitpicky, but I think if you have made an amendment, then the new proposed rules have to be, and the new hearing have to be published in like a publication or like a general publication with 30 days notice. And I think July 13th is less than 30 days away, just as a procedural thing. Anyways, I think the thing, like, just again, sort of on its face, because this is what happened to me, right? Like I'm an abutting property owner where a billionaire out-of-state developer wanted 27 variances to put a 4-story building feet from my house. And I was given 60 seconds on record to speak. And the judge said that is not due process. And the proposed rules before you empower this board to continue that same practice, even though it is obviously unacceptable. The Open Meetings Act is like a broad thing that should be used for general public comment. But in the hearing I'm referring to, I am not just a general member of the public. I am a statutorily noticed party within 300 feet of the proposed development site who is required under the aggrieved party standard to participate, contest, claim an interest, and establish damages on the record. And if you are only giving me 60 seconds to speak, and the first time that I am seeing the actual project details is at the presentation at the hearing, I can't give you anything written in advance because I haven't been given anything to review, right? And due process is a 3-pronged thing that involves, notice, meaningful opportunity to be heard, and one other thing that I'm blanking on, but right, like there's just these common sense things that are missed in the proposed amendments. And I'm not saying that you guys are going to intentionally.
Okay.
Next one is resident.
Resident, if you could please unmute yourself and you'll have 2 minutes for public comment. Resident. Resident, if you could please unmute yourself, you'll have 2 minutes for public comment. Resident.
I did unmute. I did unmute.
Okay, go ahead. You have 2 minutes.
I did unmute.
I understand. You have 2
Let
minutes.
me speak, please.
Have at
Let
it.
me
2
speak.
minutes. I think you need to listen. Go ahead and speak. You have 2 minutes.
Hello? Hello?
Go ahead.
Hello?
I'll come back to her, Mr. Chairman.
We're going to come back to you, resident. We're going to come back to you. We can't hear you. So we'll come back to you after the next person.
Charlotte.
Charlotte, if you could please unmute yourself. You'll have 2 minutes for public comment. Charlotte.
Hello. I'm going to reference a few cases that you guys might not be aware of that I submitted today in my public comment. One of them is STT Holdings LLC versus City of Detroit and City of Detroit Board of Zoning Appeals. In that case, the attorney for the city and Polichello and Associates for STT Holdings were the relevant attorneys. Appellant raised the record ordinance, which was then 61-2-45 rather than 50-2-66, but which was the same ordinance, by email, and it's brief in support of its motion to amend the contents of the record. In the city's response, it indicated that the transcript would be filed when it became available. Notably, the city didn't contest the applicability of the records ordinance. The parties stipulated to withdraw appellant's motion to amend the contents before it was scheduled to be heard, and the city filed the transcript. Another case, Gecko Enterprises LLC versus City of Detroit and City of Detroit BZA. It again involved a corporate client represented by a firm with serious zoning experience, Dickinson Wright. Here, there's also a stipulated order saying the appellee will file the July 10th, 2000 rehearing transcripts with the court and serve the transcripts on the attorney for the appellant before October. Basically, there's a bunch of these cases where the corporate appellant had a real zoning company or a real zoning attorney represent them, and the city just gave the transcripts because that's what the rules require, and the city didn't think that they could get away with using them as an impediment to appeal. The more recent cases where it's used them as an impediment to appeal have been against residents who can't afford the thousands of dollars for a transcript, or at least for whom it's a significant financial burden, unlike a developer, using attorneys that they could afford, which were either working for them free or pro se or on some other discounted rate, and were not zoning attorneys with zoning experience. It's a pattern of using it as a barrier to access to justice when they can.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, go back to resident.
All right, resident, if you could please unmute yourself, you'll have 2 minutes. Resident?
Hello, can you finally hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You have 2 minutes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Folks,
Can you hear us?
somebody over there was muting me. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you
You
hear
have 2
me?
minutes.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Hello?
Okay. Vanessa Peak.
What's going on?
Okay.
Vanessa Peak.
We're going to switch to Vanessa Peak. Vanessa Peak, if you could please unmute yourself, you'll have 2 minutes.
Yes, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Members of the community have made comments in terms of the revisions that you seek to make and have pointed out various violations with respect to the court of law. Can you tell me what process will this body go through to take into account the comments that were made and to have any type of formal discussion with the public in regards to these comments that have been made today? What is the process? Or is it that we're just here and comments are being made and nothing by way of consideration to what's being brought before this body is going to be taken into account?
All right.
One more time, last time, this is the last hand, resident, one more time, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Resident, if you could please unmute yourself, you'll have
Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, obviously there's an issue with her phone. Everybody else worked fine, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we'll close out public comment then. Any new business?
No new business.
Our next hearing date's July 13th, 2026.
No, June 29th.
Oh.
Next week.
June 29th. Sorry.
Then July 13th.
All right. Any advisements?
No advisements.
Any old business?
No old business.
Motion to adjourn. Second? Probably second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.